Hello and welcome to Champ Select, your go-to competitive Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm Alex, as per usual. Joining me are my two co-hosts, Noble.
Hello.
And Hugh.
Hello.
And today we've got a lot to talk about. Empires of the Ascended is just around the corner. Well, I think it'll be live by the time this episode goes live, but for us it's Tuesday, the day before the set releases. So we haven't gotten to play with any of the new cards yet.
Don't worry, still got plenty to talk about.
But we got a lot of cards to talk about. We're going to be going over each of our 5 favorite cards from the set, as well as our 3 favorite champion cards. So 5 favorite non-champs, our 3 favorite champs. We're going to be discussing really quick the end of the seasonal tournament. It all finished up on Sunday. We got to see Top 32 streamed live. It was an excellent stream, a lot to talk about. Majin ended up taking it down. And then we're going to get into a little bit of community drama that's been going on around a particular Leblanc champion card that's been spoiled, and as per usual, we'll ended off with some viewer questions. So, without further ado, I think let's just jump right into the seasonal tournament. Happened on Sunday. I think Riot did a great job with the stream. I don't know how much of it you guys have watched. I watched about the latter half of it. That's about how my day ended up. That I could watch about the latter half of it. It was really well done. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had time to logged on, got the back end of some commentary after a match, and then they said the stream is paused indefinitely because there were some technical difficulties with the tournament. Then I was like, okay, I'll tune in later, and then I didn't.
Yeah, real credit to how they handled that situation. I'm not sure entirely of all the details that went around it, though I know that Josh Utter-Layton who is Raptoro in game, had an issue connecting to a match or something.
He's a long-term
Magic Gathering pro, Hall of Famer, I think. Anyway, it handled flawlessly. The tournament ran really smooth. That's the only problem the tournament had. And when it happened, they dealt with it quickly and got everything back up and running smooth, and there was no penalties for the players. Just awesome. Handled well. So obviously technical difficulties, we all wish they didn't happen, but they're inevitable. Yeah. So I think that was really cool. I do want to talk about Majin Bey's winning deck list a little bit, I think, or deck lists, excuse me, his winning lineup. For those of you who are unaware, he played Lee Zoe, TF Fizz, and Aphelios Tom Kench. I guess any thoughts right off the bat there? It's a pretty different lineup than I think a lot of people I was expecting to win.
Aphelios Kench is
super
kind of was the hidden tag.
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say I want to know what that deck list looks like because I haven't seen it.
So it lets you play Aphelios and Bilgewater with Crescendum, and then also play TF in a different deck. So you get to basically double up.
You get to do the Box-to-Puss thing in one deck and have a TF deck.
Yeah, a different TF deck. And the Aphelios TF is not honestly a particularly great TF deck. And it's pretty good at protecting Tom Kench. It just works. It's just something.
Yeah, I want to know why specifically Aphelios Kench was, because
here's the deck list. Here's the deck list. It is 3 copies of Aphelios, 3 copies of Tom Kench, 3 copies of the Veiled Temple.
Of course.
Now we're into the followers. 3 copies of Lunari Duskbringer, 2 Spacey Sketcher, 3 Box-to-Puss, 2 Solari Priestess, 3 copies of the Fangs, a card that's really overperformed in this tournament and is something that I think we maybe need to keep an eye on in the future. 3 copies of Wiggly Burblefish, 1 Gifts from Beyond, 3 Guiding Touch, 1 Pale Cascade, 2 Sunblessed Vigor, 2 Hush, 2 Bastion, 3 Star Shaping, and a Mind Meld.
Yeah, the Star Shapings are really good with Kench.
Yeah.
Is there Burblefish in the deck? Sorry.
Yeah, there are 3 of them.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because
it looks like a lot of value.
It's just a lot of value. It turns out Tom Kench is really good with Aphelios because of Severum, mostly.
Yeah, you can just heal him for 2.
You can heal him forever. Really good with the Veiled Temple because he just keeps getting toughness. There's a lot of healing in this deck. And then, I don't know. Sometimes I guess you're going to cast Mind Meld and kill people, but probably you're just going to eat their whole board with Aphelios and Tom Kench and flip and eventually win a long game.
Counter removal champions, mana advantage from the Veiled Temple. I honestly think Tom Kench might just be better in the deck than TF, and probably on ladder TF is a little better because TF
a little bit more versatile.
Access.
Yeah, but this deck I think we all really missed this Aphelios Kench deck, and it's really good. The theory behind why Aphelios TF was good was honestly TF is good, Box-to-Puss is good, the Veiled Temple is great. It's we all acknowledge that we wanted to play a Twisted Fate deck, so it makes a ton of sense to be able to play a Twisted Fate deck
and a really good Aphelios
really good Aphelios deck that filled a similar role as the TF Kench did in being a really hard to beat mid-range package.
Yeah, I would be interested. I don't actually have this data to see if this lineup differed from what he played in the open rounds.
I think it has to be the same.
I thought it had to be the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to change?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it just had to be the same.
Neat. Cool.
So, yeah, I think that this lineup is really good and super sweet. His Lee Zoe deck is a little interesting as well. It's playing 2 copies of Homeward Path. Is that the one? Homecoming, that's the one. 2 copies of Homecoming, 2 copies of the Fangs in this deck as well, notably.
And 3 copies of the Veiled Temple, right?
Yeah.
Like they're playing all the good Targon
Only
cards.
2 copies of Veiled Temple,
okay.
I don't know. This, like, the Fangs is the card that stood out to me the most when I looked at all of these deck lists, is that, like, almost all, like, a lot of these Targon deck lists were just, like, playing multiple copies of the Fangs. And I thought this card was good, but I, like, didn't pull the trigger on putting it in more decks, and I wish I had, because it looks like it's really overperforming, and I'm very excited to go back and try putting the Fangs in more decks and seeing if it holds up still.
Yeah, it's kind of weirdly replacing Guiding Touch in a way. Like, it's a good way to survive, but it actually has, like, a lot of effect on the game versus just, like, cantripping and healing too.
Yeah, and Lee Zoe in particular was a deck that really benefited from, like, the Veiled Temple and the Fangs, because it just had nothing to do on turn 4 in the past. Yeah. Like, it really struggled with, all right, turn 4 is my spell bank turn, and, like, that was really exploitable play pattern from other decks once they started, having really important turns on turn 4, where, turn 4 is like my Twisted Fate turn or whatever, and you just can't deal with it. And by the time my Lissandra gets online, if I happen to have the attack token on turn 4, right, I'm not going to attack till turn 6, and by then your Twisted Fate's going to flip. Yeah, and that was like a really big problem I found with the Lee Zoe deck in that particular meta, or the one we're, I guess, technically still in.
Is this Lee Zoe deck playing Eyes of the Dragon?
Let me double check. I don't think so.
I feel like it should be playing 0, right?
I'm not 100% sure. Let me double check. But I do think it is 0.
I'm just wondering if the Fangs replaced that or kind of some other stuff. I know in our testing,
3 copies of Eyes of the Dragon.
Yeah, I think that card is good.
I do think that card's
I
really
think that we had some testing errors when we decided that card wasn't good. And I never decided. I would have put that card in my deck if I registered that deck. I think that card is just so huge against aggro decks. It feels bad some games, but that happens.
Yeah.
I've cut that card from Lee Zed in the past before, when it was just like didn't really seem that good because there wasn't a lot of aggro floating around. But like, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with Eyes of the Dragon in general most of the time. That card is just, it's just so good. It's a 2-mana 1/3. It gives you a spell mana.
Yeah, it's like it's a 1-mana 1/3, man.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Like, you want the spell mana. So I've been consistently pretty happy with Eyes of the Dragon, so I'm not too surprised that one didn't go anywhere.
Another winning seasonal deck list, I don't actually remember what region this was, but this was like what I expected you to read, and then I was a little surprised. But there are a bunch of seasonal tournaments going on, and it was a triple PNZ lineup, and it had Victor, Aphelios, TF Fizz, and might have just been Discard Aggro.
Discard Aggro? That sounds probably like the...
It was a third, but basically, like, it was just PNZ is really good right now. Maybe it was Ezreal Draven? I'll look it up.
There's a lot of good PNZ deck lists.
But
so.
yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. If I remember the lineup, I think it was Draven.
Is there no love for Karina Control here?
No
love for Karina Control. Come on. That's about all I have to say for the seasonal tournament. I think it was handled really well. It was a super cool tournament. I think that we probably missed a couple of the sweet decks that you could bring. And it really just goes to show that the seasonal tournament is the place to bring your brews, because you have to submit 3 decks. So like finding ways to abuse the broken things in different packages that are like, in this instance, Aphelios Kench did really well, I think is a really, really excellent way to attack seasonal tournaments, and is something that I'm going to take as a lesson into the future and try and maybe prepare something a little bit spicier. All right. So that's it for Cosmic Creations. Let's move on to our favorite cards from Empires of the Ascended. We've got what we all wrote down, our top 5 cards that are not champions, our top 3 champions, and some honorable mentions. So I think let's get into these honorable mentions first, starting with Concurrent Timelines.
So this is the 1-mana slow spell, and it says, for the rest of the game, when
the first time each turn you summon a unit, you are shown 3 units of the same converted mana cost, and you transform it into one of them. Followers, I think.
The first time you play a follower each round, pick one of follower. You pick one of 3 followers with the same cost to transform it into. And this goes across regions. This card's really cool.
Weird. I think it might be really good.
Yeah, I don't yet know if it is going to like play an Egghead Researcher, get the dragon, then change it into something else, or if it's going to get the summon effect of the new thing instead. But I'm almost certain that it's always going to get play effects. Like
it's certainly always going to get play effects. Yeah, absolutely.
Both skills that get put on the stack and play effects like
Commander Ledros or whatever.
Yeah.
For example.
Well, yeah, and even ones that don't get put on the stack, the what's the Chronicler of Ruin?
Oh yeah,
I think it will still definitely get.
I think if you're getting the play effect, you're not getting the play effect from the original card.
I think you always get the play effect from the original card, never get the play effect from the new card, and I don't know whether or not you get the summon effect. Which of the two cards you get the summon effect from? Though I'm sure it's one of them.
The summon effect happens when it hits play, so it would be the second one if it had a summon
Probably,
effect.
yes.
Yeah.
Unless it works like Magic, where the trigger goes on the stack, the game sees the trigger before it gets transformed into something. But because this card says when summoned, not before, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this card just sort of wrinkles my brain in general.
It's weird.
No, it's play a follower. It's the first time you play a follower.
So it will definitely give you the summon effect of the one that you choose to transform it into. So I actually think this card is like really good. Like really good, to be honest. Like there's so many enter the battlefield or play effects rather that you can abuse on small bodies and then turn them into just the stupid biggest stat line you find. Yeah. Right? Like you get to look at 3 cards. Yeah. You get to look at 3 cards. That's so many.
Yeah, something that some information that is pretty relevant. Someone made, I don't remember when or who did this, but someone on Reddit posted it was a graph for the most value you can be getting out of your Tri-beam Improbabulator. Improbabulator, that's what it is.
Is it actually that?
It is Improbabulator.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Wow, I've never read it. Like I always thought it was just Improbulator.
I could just be wrong.
My mind just made that. I could believe the tri-beam card.
We're gonna stop.
It's the tri-beam card.
It's tri.
Anyway,
everyone just calls it tri-beam. It's tri-beam.
The coolest combo with this card is if you play Commander Ledros, get the half damage skill, and then you have like something like a 50-50 shot of getting the Dreadway and just OTK.
Just doubles it. I imagine that one was on that tri-beam.
Yeah, they figured out that the high, like, you shouldn't play it at like 4 and 6 because those have, I think it was 4 and 6.
3 was one of the ones because 3 has Solitary Monk that bounces your board.
Oh. That sounds awful.
Yeah, basically they decided that like there was like a few mana costs that were like play them here if you are ahead and play them on these other ones if you're way behind and need a blowout of some kind.
Yeah. Or
that makes sense.
Yeah. It was because you need to like really roll the dice to try and come back.
And then the most consistent ones are the higher mana cost ones because they're all good, well statted, and they're all very few of them are
with
bad.
The exception of 10. You don't like 10. 10 is bad.
Why?
Okay.
Because
good to know.
Because you get a 5/5 or a 6/6 or
just like the random things that get cost reduction.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's just a bunch of 5/5s and 6/6s that you just like. I don't want.
Yeah, Scuttlegeist and
like I missed out on Commander Ledros or the Dreadway or
the 9-drops are better than the 10-drops. Like weirdly, a lot of the 10-drops have cost reduction.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, it's kind of weird how that works. That you just don't want it as high as possible in theory. A lot of the time, like
I just am so sad that apparently you can't hit 17 and get the Watcher off of it.
Well, you can't live all the dreams. You do realize that, like, it's a 40 card deck.
You have to play 17 3-drops.
Like, Earth are you,
sir? Counterfeit copies.
Have you heard
exist.
of Stony Suppressor plus Aphelios to play lots of 3-drops?
So many 3-drops. That's so sick.
It doesn't work because that's
I'm bringing that for my Singleton Gauntlet though. I'm showing up. I got my Singleton Gauntlet deck though. Tell you what.
Lux, get Lux, Aphelios, and Tri-beam.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Go off. And I get to play Ezreal. Yeah, deck sounds great.
He makes 3 mana Mystic Shots.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. This is so sick.
And Aphelios, Stony Suppressor can be your only 2-drop, so Aphelios always finds it.
All right. Yeah, that deck sounds awful, and Singleton Gauntlet doesn't exist anymore. maybe we have a moment of silence.
It'll come back.
All right. I'm really excited about Concurrent Timelines. I think it's really good, and I don't have specific examples, but I think there's a lot of ways to exploit that and end up with big things and good effects, and it's just going to be good. Next up on our honorable mentions list, we have Entomb. I'll let you guys go first on this one.
So it's the 5 mana fast spell. It's Lissandra's champ spell.
Yeah, Freljord.
In Freljord. It obliterates a unit and then replaces it with a frozen tomb, which is a landmark that says count down 2, bring the frozen unit back, or the obliterated unit back. This is just like Vengeance-esque removal. I know that it's not permanent, but it does cost 2 less mana.
Which is substantial.
Yeah, that's a lot.
2's a lot
mana.
less. You can cast this on turn 3.
Yeah, exactly. And then it can remove a blocker because the landmark's filling up the board, and it can permanently fill up the board because your opponent probably doesn't want to obliterate the landmark to not get their good unit back. So it can make it easier to get attacks through. Phases is out for like the purposes of like champions seeing triggers, and can also be a blowout in response to like a lot of combat tricks and stuff, and can just like reset a bunch of buffs on a unit. And I just think that like this is something that not a lot of regions get access to, and even with the downside, just pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it. It's also something just Freljord couldn't do before that it could now do. Like it just didn't have hard removal, and like how often does your vengeance need to kill something for more than a couple turns?
Admittedly, that's a hard question to answer because you don't really know how like it's. I've never analyzed that card that way before. I've never thought like, man, if that card came back like this turn, I'd be in real trouble. So like, okay, I'll start with I'm much lower on this card than you guys are.
Yeah, I know.
And we talked a little bit briefly before the episode.
You're much lower on most cards than we are, just to clarify.
That's fair. That's a fair point. But this one, it's like, okay, so there's definitely a few upsides here. It's a unique effect that Freljord hasn't had access to. And even if it's, not that great, it's still a unique effect. And there is some value in that. You can get your card back out of this, even if the unit comes back by, by basically eating it when they play a combat trick or something, right? Like, if they attack and try to frostbite your thing and then you put their ash in a tomb or whatever, right? Like you're essentially getting your card back there, even if the ash comes back later and it deals with the ash for a couple turns. There's a few problems though. And one of them is that like, what Freljord deck is really going to abuse this 2-turn tempo window where you're doing this. And I think the only answer is like Ash Sejuani.
Feel the Rush.
I don't think
gets
that
you
Feel
closer
the Rush,
to your win con.
I don't think that Feel the Rush really cares that much. Like, I think that there are better things to be doing to get you there than this card.
That's a reasonable argument. We'll see how.
Like, it's not better than Catalyst of Aeons. I don't think it's better than any of the Shadow Isles removal. I think this card is clearly worse than most Shadow Isles removal spells.
Okay.
Do you think it's worse than Grasp of the Undying?
I think it's way better than Grasp of the Undying.
I think it's meta dependent, but like I could easily see much rather playing Grasp of the Undying. Like, if like Draven and Ezreal and stuff like that is the best thing to be doing.
Yeah,
the Grasp of the Undying's way better there. This card's really bad against every aggro deck. Just like almost across the board. Like, what are you
imagine hitting a crowd favorite?
Yeah, but like you can hit a crowd favorite and that's pretty good, but like it's not that much better than vengeancing it. It comes out earlier and you might not die to it, but crowd favorite is never the card that Feel the Rush has had the problem with.
That's fair.
I just don't agree at all.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Like I just everything
totally fine.
you've been talking for like several minutes now, and I just keep thinking like, yeah, I just think you're wrong about all those things. Like I think the 2 turns is incredibly relevant. I think stopping one particular big threat is very, very relevant at several parts of the game. It's played way earlier than Vengeance. It lets you do other things the same turn if you're in the mid game.
I mean, it's still 5 mana. This isn't really like a turn 4 double spell type of card.
I understand.
Like, this is still going to be your turn most of the time.
I get that, but like, I don't know. I think
that you really have to use those 2 turns or get your card back in another way. And I don't think that many Freljord decks can do that effectively.
I don't think that's I think you can just sort of advance your board and stabilize a little bit. Like you can, like, I don't know. It's so hard to talk about because this card is so weird. Yeah.
Also, like I think we can think about comparing this card to Will of Ionia. It's kind of similar. They don't have to pay the mana again, but it also strips buffs and removes blockers, but they also can't get it as soon if they really want it.
That's fair.
It's reasonable. I just
that's a reasonable comparison.
Great.
That card's been pretty good in the past, but isn't that great anymore. Do you think this card's better than Will of Ionia, Hugh?
Yes. Something else that hasn't been mentioned yet, I don't think, and that I think is very, very relevant is that, unless I'm wrong, this is Lissandra's champ spell.
Yes. Yeah, that is relevant.
Massive points in its favor.
Yeah. Any champ spell, any champion that has a champ spell that's playable is so nice. Like, I do think that Tomb is going to win games, but I think that most of the time that happens, it's going to be Lissandra's champ spell. Like, this is one of those spells where I love that it's a champion spell because I don't really want to put this card in my deck that bad. It's pretty good, but like might not, maybe is like the 38th or 39th best card in my deck, or maybe the 42nd or 43rd best card in my deck, but I'm still going to get to cast it occasionally when I draw a second Lissandra in my Lissandra deck or whatever. And those types of spells are really nice. I think of like Whirling Death is in that same, Draven's Whirling Death is in that category for me.
Yeah.
Pick a card was in that category for a long time before it became main deckable.
Yeah,
before we were trying to turbo flip Twisted Fate.
Before the Twisted Fate stuff. Let's see. There's a lot of other ones that are in that category. Honestly, the box is kind of close to that as well, where it's like, sometimes.
Yeah, but who's playing Thresh?
Yeah, exactly. But, you're not going to play Thresh, but like there are a lot of champ spells
Black
that just.
Spear on Callista is one.
Yeah, Callista's Black Spear is another good one.
Like
Jinx's Get Excited, and Get Excited is really good, so that's just great. But
yeah,
like having a relevant champ spell is really good.
Cool. And our last honorable mention is brought to you by none other than the official sponsor of the Champ Select podcast, Dragon Chow, the one-stop shop for all your dragon feeding needs. No one wants a hungry pet. Keep yourself off the menu with Dragon Chow. So cute, it feels like a crime to eat it. Order now with the code HOLYBURBLEFISH, all one word, to get 20% off.
Dragon Chow is not responsible for any bodily harm resulting from the use of this product. Do not use if your dragon is pregnant, injured, or particularly irate. Champ Select is not responsible for any harm that comes to your dragon, nor the emotional or psychological damage that follows. No Dragon Chows were harmed in the making of this episode.
Dragon Chow, 80% elephant, 20% mammoth, 100% delicious.
Also, pretty good card.
It's really good.
Delicious card.
All right. So jokes aside, I think this card's really quite good, and I'm not certain that a dragon deck's going to be good, but if it is, I'm gonna put 3 Dragon Chows in it. I think.
I think that's reasonable. Like I don't.
The card just does what you want.
Yeah, if it's saving you from like an early aggro turn too, like it can die.
Yeah, I read this card, and as per usual, when I read most cards, I thought it was unplayable, and then I thought about it a little bit more, and I'm pretty happy with this one. Like, it's going to block in the early turns, probably 2 points. Most of the time, you're going to block 2 points with it. It's going to get you a Fury trigger later. It's going to redraw you the card. It's only 1 mana. You're going to be able to fit it in on pretty much almost every curve, every game. And it cycles pretty easily as long as you're playing dragons, which I hope you're doing.
Yeah,
if you have the card in your
deck without dragons.
Yes, yes. To be clear, do not put it in your deck with no dragons in it. But I think if you're playing a deck with, 16 or 17 dragons, this card's quite good. Maybe even less. I haven't ran the the math, but it seems pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know how many dragons you need to make dragon decks work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've never tried to run the Dragon Chow hypergeometric calculator yet, but
we'll get on that and get back to you.
Yeah, that's you can take that job.
All right,
That's our last
honorable mention. Let's get into our actual top 5 favorite non-champ cards. I'll go ahead and start us off. These are in no particular order, but my first one is Quicksand.
That's the 3 mana burst spell. Give a unit
-4/-0 and remove all positive keywords from it. Oh, yeah, this card is
pseudo hush.
It's like basically hush, and it gives -4/-0. I think that this card is going to be more annoying than hush. Is my take.
Honestly inclined to agree. Like, I think this card's very strong.
Yeah, I think that if it weren't, like, the reason why hush might be still be more annoying is because it's in specifically Targon. And like Targon Targon just loves casting spells like this and winning combat. And maybe Shurima won't care as much about like hushing your thing and winning combat. And maybe they're just going to be more like Noxus, where they just don't care what you have and they're going to try to kill you.
Yeah, Targon's sort of just annoying tribal. Like, that's sort of their region identity.
That's pretty fair. But this card's really good.
Yep. All right, What's next?
All right, next up for me is Ancient Hourglass. This is the 2 mana destroy a follower if you have less mana crystals than your opponent. It technically has other text.
Is it obliterate? Is it destroy or is it obliterate?
I think it's destroy a follower.
Really?
It might be obliterate.
I feel like it's obliterate. I feel like they don't want you last breathing off of this.
It easily could be obliterate. It's probably obliterate. I will double check.
Pulling it up
very quick.
Obliterate an ally and summon
Okay,
a stasis statue in its place is what Ancient Hourglass does, and I don't think that's the card you're talking about.
That's not the card I'm talking about.
Oh, is it? Oh,
no, I'm talking about the destroy a follower if you have less mana than them.
I wrote down unworthy.
Unworthy.
The 2 mana slow, -4/-0, or destroy if you have less mana gems.
Yes, that one. I'm sorry, I wrote down the wrong card. Yes. To run it back, unworthy. 2 mana, slow, -4/-0, or if you have less mana crystals, destroy a follower. That card is so good and is the payoff, I think, for having less mana crystals than your opponent and is good enough to make it a good effect, I think. I'm not certain. Like if the cards that destroy your mana crystals aren't good enough, then this card won't see play. But I think that we got there, and I think that this is going to be the reason why you want to do it.
I don't necessarily disagree. I think I completely agree on the point that this is the payoff. Like this is the card.
Yeah, this is the one that you want. Yeah.
And
2 mana destroy a follower?
Yeah, no, that's insane. That is insane.
We were just talking about the merits of 5 mana obliterate a follower with downside.
Yeah, it wasn't a follower
or obliterate a thing with downside. But still,
it is a champion. So follower restricted is definitely relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had that conversation with Aphelios.
Very relevant
because there is there's the champion tutor, 0 mana, kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to draw a champion, which is Rite of Calling, that can turn this on, and then there's also the pseudo / better deny.
Yeah, I mean we should talk about that one. That one's on your list as well, right? Yeah. So let's just talk about that one right now because it flows right in.
Rite of Negation is a 4 mana fast spell. I have it currently. It's the top of my list just because of how impactful it is. It says kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to stop all enemy fast spells, slow spells, and skills. This is such a huge blowout.
This card is really good, I think.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it does so much. Like, it is easier to disrupt than deny because if you are killing one of your own followers to, like, really get a good blowout or something, because it's, like, being targeted by a removal spell or whatever, they can, like, Mystic Shot back. But if you don't want that to happen, you can always hit one of your mana gems, and then it just like can be like a 2 or 3 for 1, winning a whole stack fight, or it can answer the I put 5 burn spells on the stack targeting your face. You just can't do that against Shurima because like what if they have this?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the fact that Shurima just has a deny in it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this is a really big deal that there's another region that has a deny effect, right? Yeah. They were all Ionia in the past, unless you wanted to count like Bastion or whatever, which is deny-esque, but not quite as truly deny as this is. This 4 mana, the same cost as deny. I mean, the reason why everyone plays Ionia ever right now is for deny. Like, are we just not going to play Ionia anymore? Like, I'm just inclined to play Shurima instead and get better cards.
I didn't think about it that way, and now that I'm thinking about it that way,
yeah, kind of.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good. I was a little less high on this card. I thought it was good.
Yeah, all of this makes it pretty sad that Ionia only got 2 cards this expansion, and they're both.
Yeah, I think Ionia is going to really feel it this expansion. I just don't. I can't imagine like
Fiora Shen, I guess.
Fiora Shen and maybe the Lissandra are pretty much the only 2 that are going to survive, and I guess those were the only 2 decks that played Ionia for Ionia cards. So that sounds about right. I think that I'm going to lose a lot of games to that card.
All right, let's finish off your list, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting back to it, next on my list is Whispered Words. This is the 4 mana burst spell from Noxus. Draw 2 cards. Reputation costs 2.
And mostly better salvage. Not strictly better.
But like pretty much strictly better.
Yeah,
unless you're playing deep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's start with the horse in the room here, or the reason why I think this card's great is because it's in.
You mean elephant in the room?
I mean elephant in the room. I'm sorry. I got the Dragon Chow. The Dragon Chow in the room. And that is that this card's in Noxus. And they did not have an effect like this in the past.
I literally earlier today was building a deck with Noxus, and I typed in for the like 20th time. I've tried to do this like so many times. I typed in the word draw into the search bar. And I'm like,
nothing.
Right, wait a second.
Trifarian
There's
Assessor,
just
and that's
nothing
it.
there. Yeah, exactly. Like,
and for a deck that is trying, like, these Noxus decks are usually aggressive. So you're not going to cast Whispered Words on turn 4, right? Like, you're usually going to cast it on turn 5 or 6 when you're out of gas. And by then, a lot of the times, Reputation's going to be online. So you're going to be able to draw 2 cards for 2 mana, the same price as Glimpse Beyond, which is, I think, one of the best cards in the game, period. And you don't have to sacrifice an ally.
And it's burst.
Yeah, like, this card is going to give these Noxus aggro decks a lot of fuel that they did not have in the past. And I think Glimpse Beyond is one of the biggest reasons why Shadow Isles aggro decks have been as strong as they have for a long time. With this card, I expect that Noxus is once again going to be the best aggro color, best aggro region, unless Shurima takes its place.
It's also good with like the Swain and Draven like mid-range.
Yeah, decks, it's great in the Ezreal decks too, like Ezreal Draven or whatever.
Like, it's hard to find a deck that doesn't want this card.
Yeah, if you're in Noxus, like I'm gonna put this card in most of my Noxus decks, and until I'm shown that it's bad, I'm going to assume it's very good.
If you TF red card with a keg, hitting 2 followers in their Nexus, is that a ping for Reputation?
That is a good question. Okay, I think the answer. I feel like the answer is yes.
I would have to see the exact wording.
I think the answer is yes, because the Sivir's spell, the like ricochet, triggers Reputation, and it is the 5 distributed random damage, but it happens all at once, and according to the video,
it triggered Reputation. Yeah, I agree. I agree with this. I think that it probably would trigger Reputation.
Like, this card is better than salvage in, for example, TF Swain, because it's just strict upside, because sometimes it will happen.
Absolutely. Yeah,
for as long as Deep will be unplayable, which will probably looks like always for the rest of time.
Might be the rest of time.
I think it's going to be the rest of time for now. But
got a little outscaled by power creep, unfortunately. That Deep did.
Yeah, it just doesn't mesh well to anything else.
Yeah, not really.
No, it doesn't. Anyway.
All right, next up on my list is Three Sisters. This is the Freljord card. 1 mana burst that says get a Flash Freeze, a Fury of the North, or an Entomb, right? Now, this is another reason why I expect Entomb just not to see that much play, because if I'm going to be entombing something, I want to get it off Three Sisters first.
See, when I thought your argument was that Entomb was bad, not that Entomb was bad to put in your deck.
Well, I mean, I am always going to put Three Sisters in my deck before I put Entomb in my deck.
And I agree with that.
Which means I don't think I'm going to put Entomb in my deck. Ever.
I still
wait, does Three Sisters get Entomb? It does.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is all fair.
Yeah. This is one of the big reasons why I don't want to put Entomb in my deck. There's no way I'm going to want a 4th copy of this effect.
Oh, yeah, I don't necessarily just okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were arguing slightly different things.
Well, that's totally fair. But like, back to Three Sisters, this card's really, really good. Like, Flash Freeze at 3 mana, great card. Fury of the North at 4 mana, great card. Entomb at 5 mana, pretty great card, right? Like, the versatility here is insane. You only have to pay a 1 mana premium to get to choose between a 3, a 4 mana, or a 5 mana combat spell / trick / removal spell. It's going to deal with the problem that you have almost always. And that versatility, I think, is nearly unmatched.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a modal card. Modal cards are historically very powerful in card games. I do want to note real quick, Reputation specifies units. It says
TF is dealing the damage.
It says units have struck for 5 or more damage. So it has to be 5 power units.
Oh, interesting.
The text is an effect after you've had units strike for 5+ damage at 4+ times throughout a match.
I guess Sivir's spell must...
Because Sivir doesn't care about Reputation. The card Sivir
doesn't at all
have Reputation words on her.
She just says deal
damage when you've dealt 35 damage.
I thought it was triggering the 4th hit in the video, like the 4th trigger of Reputation. Never mind.
It's hard to really determine what's going on in all of those cards when you haven't played with them.
Yeah, it's true.
Totally. It's all new cards and all new interactions and all that. Yeah, we'll see. It sounds like that TF won't trigger that, but sometime I guess there's actually just straight up 0 like 5+ power units in TF Swain or whatever. So probably not better than Salvage.
Yeah.
I guess Salvage is like pretty much arbitrary. I guess it's technically slightly better because it can't hit champion cards, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like 6 to 1/2 a dozen the other. And moving on, my last card is Rampaging Bakai.
Ooh.
This is the 5 mana 4/6 from Shurima with Overwhelm. It says play if you have slain 4+ enemies. I strike an enemy and they strike me back. So
it's a skill that it puts on the stack, so it does get to target.
Yeah.
Wait. It's the 6 mana,
5 mana,
6/4
4/6.
4/6
that like flame tongue cavus, to use a Magic analogy that people won't get. It strikes a unit when it comes down.
Yeah, and that unit strikes
the entire time. I thought you guys were talking about that 6/4 with trample.
It's really hard to keep
alert.
all the cards straight when you don't know the names.
That card's on my list, which is why we were talking about that
okay,
card.
that's why.
Yeah, I think this card's really good. So slay 4+ enemies on a 5-drop card. I think that's just going to happen like almost every game, like by turn 5. I think that you are almost always, if your opponent is playing units, going to have probably killed like at least 2 or 3 by turn 5. You can almost certainly kill a 4th one by the time you play this without too much hassle. If you play it any later than turn 5 at all, it's almost certainly going to already be online. It doesn't specify followers. It can kill champions. It comes down, it's 5 mana. It's got a reasonable body. If it strikes a small thing, then it's just huge. If it strikes a slightly bigger thing, then you got to deal with a big problem already, and you still have a 4x with Overwhelm, right? I'm really high on this card. I think that it's going to be a staple of like, if there are Shuriman style mid-range decks, I think that this card's going to be a really good part of them.
I think that this card is a lot clunkier than you think it is.
That's totally possible.
I think you also are overestimating how many units die by turn 5 in most games.
So I think that if you're playing, so let's start with, I think if I'm playing an aggressive deck, my opponents are probably going to have to block some amount at the time, at least. So I'm going to be slaying units by attacking. That's mostly it. Like most of the time by turn 5, you've traded with a few units of your opponents, right? Like, even if that's only 2 or 3, like you can probably negotiate a 4th one dying by the time you need to play this for value. Yeah, okay. I don't think it's going to be that hard. I haven't played with the card. I haven't tried to, keep track of how easy it is to slay enemy units yet. It hasn't been relevant. If it ends up being harder to slay enemy units than I think it is, then this card isn't that good.
It doesn't make you slay enemies. I don't believe so. It just slay units.
Yeah, so I think that
you can have glimpse beyond your own guys, and it counts.
Yeah, that can count too. I think that it's pretty doable. So I'm pretty high on this card because of that.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of the reason I'm apprehensive is because Targon is so prevalent right now, and all of what Targon does is kind of
that's pretty fair.
They don't play units; they play things that makes their units not die. So they're creature light, spell heavy, and it's hard to kill their units as a consequence.
Slay in general is going to be much worse against Targon, I think.
If that whole game plan in general, like the whole higher value units, I'm going to protect them more and play less of units in general is worse now. If that plan gets
you're actually right. I really didn't consider the fact that Targon is probably going to be almost certainly still going to be a very large part of the meta, and their identity is not slaying units, very much trying to keep my units alive and protect them. And so
Mountain Goats still trade off, Mentor of the Stone still gets slain.
It's true.
There's still a few options, but it is going to be harder to get to 4 against those Targon decks or whatever. But that could be a relevant part and could easily be a reason why this card doesn't see that much play, or why a lot of the slay things don't see that much play, is because it's hard to slay Targon's units.
Cool. All right.
Anyway, that's the end of my list. So who's up next?
I mean, I want to do all the 5s first?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
My top 5 non-champs started at Rite of Negation, which we've already talked a little bit about. Just like another region having access to a deny effect is so huge for the game, and very good. And it also turns on that card that Alex really liked. Then I have Golden Ambassador, which is the 4-mana 3/2, the Shuriman Allegiance card that draws a champion with +2/+2. I think that card is very powerful.
It's so good. And especially now that we've seen Azir, right? Yeah. We've seen this full spoiler now. We've seen Azir. That card is really good with Azir. Azir's like a 3-mana 1/5. If you draw him, with this and you draw
that's a 3-mana 3/7.
3-mana 3/7, he's huge. How are you really going to kill him before he flips? I just don't think that's really going to happen in most games.
I think card is going to be Vengeance, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty much in the Vengeance territory.
Or
in
Entomb.
Oh.
So I also have Quicksand on my list, like Alex. I don't think we need to talk about that one much more. And then I have Rune Runner, as I already said, which is the 5-mana 6/4 from Shurima with Spell Shield and Overwhelm. I think that this card is the stats are just so crazy.
And stats are insane.
This one is weird because it looks so it looks so unassuming at face value, but this one is just efficient.
Yeah, if you think about ever putting Alpha Wildclaw in your deck, this card Costs
So
1 less,
much better.
has spell shield. It has 2 less toughness, which is very relevant because the fact that Wild Claw often takes 2 blocks to kill means it gets in for a lot of damage. But, you can't finish this off with a spell unless you're casting 2 spells that target it, which doesn't happen that often. Yeah, it's great to put buffs on.
This basically forces your opponent to have a 4-power creature to block it.
Which is hard to do.
Which there aren't that many.
And then imagine if you have a trick.
Yeah,
just like give it barrier, give it a riposte, and you just smack them for so much.
Pale Cascade.
Yeah, give it anything.
The margins are so thin on killing this card that just a Pale Cascade can just blow you out.
Yeah, how many times has your opponent like cast the Destroyer or whatever, and you're like, this is a huge thing with Spell Shield, I can't beat it.
Yeah,
or whatever. Like, you can just put it in your deck now. Yeah, and this card isn't really that much worse than the Destroyer. It's like it's a couple less mana. And
1 less power?
Yeah, 1 less power, 3 less toughness. It's not that much worse, for the mana discount you're getting. And the fact that you can just put it in your deck as opposed to being a Celestial card. Like, be aware. I think this card's going to kill people.
Absolutely.
Poor Darius.
Oh, man. Poor Darius.
But also, if you're like making a Noxus Overwhelm deck, now you may play Shurima for this card. Yeah. Like, that's very relevant.
Yeah, and these Noxus Overwhelm decks are just really going to enjoy all the aggressive Shurima 1-drops too.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you block with a 4-power thing and then you like decisive maneuver, get that creature out of there. It smacks them for 8, your other board gets in. Like, we might be going green scenario here, but it's just a very effective beater that has good keywords. And I think these are the kind of cards that people might overlook looking over a spoiler. They're like,
easy
this card's
to sleep
really
on.
sweet. This card's really sweet. I think this card's just value.
Yeah, a lot of big beaters don't have. A lot of creatures with Spell Shield aren't beaters.
Yeah,
and the few that are just insane.
So the reason I think Sivir is going to be much better than people give, because she looks pretty boring, but I think she's just going to kill people.
I think she's really good.
I think she's really good too.
Okay. And then lastly, I have Black Rose Spy, which we haven't talked about yet.
This card is really good.
Really sweet. I think Alex was on the cusp of putting on his list, but when we compared notes, he put something else on, so we had more to talk about.
Yeah, pretty much. In reality, I do think this card is one of the top 5 cards in the set, almost for sure. It's such an efficient. It's such a good 2-drop. So go ahead and give us the exact text on this one.
2-mana 3/2. So that's just good on rate. It's from Noxus.
2-mana 3/2.
That card is like, I'm gonna play that sometimes. Like you play Bright Steel Protector sometimes, and it just gets in. It's a epic, and it says Reputation. So if you've struck 4 or more times with 5+ power units, which is how I'm reading that. I don't think you get a reputation trigger if you attack with 2 3/2s and you had a unit strike for unit strike.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You definitely don't. Okay. When I'm summoned, if reputation, when I'm summoned, transform me into an exact copy of the strongest ally that struck this round. So it has some limitations. You need reputation. It is the strongest ally, and it does have to have struck this round. But this card can be like so huge. This card can be a 2-mana 6/4 spell shield, like I was just talking about. Like there can be turns when you attack with that, and then on turn 7 you like play like a single combat with your 6/4 with spell shield, play 2 Black Rose Spies, and that's just like each one that's Wiggly Burblefish's amount of power to mana cost. It's huge.
It's worth noting here as well that it can copy champions as well. If your champion is the strongest unit you have in play, you can have 2 of them.
Lots
this
of
can
Sivers.
be 2 Sivers. Yeah.
Or like, LeBlancs.
Or 2 LeBlancs or whatever. Or 2
Tryndamere.
2 Tryndamers. Yeah, whatever.
Really, really insane.
Sign me up. There's a lot of stuff going on with that card for it to potentially be really powerful. And do not underestimate how good having your 2-drop be good in the late game is.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so huge, can be huge tempo swings, and fits really well into some existing decks like Ash Noxus. Like that deck has infinite 5-power units. Yetis and Ash itself and Sejuani, and this card just transforming into an Ash or a Sejuani, or God forbid, like coming in as a Trifarian Assessor and maybe drawing you a bunch of cards. Like I don't know if that's exactly how that works. But
yeah, and this card plus Whispered Words means that when these aggressive decks turn on Reputation, their later turns are going to start to get really, really mana efficient, and that is terrifying.
There's
because
also
those are the turns where your deck is supposed to start winning, right? Like on turn like 6 or 7, your mid range deck is supposed to be doing more powerful things, and if they're like 2 mana draw 2, 2 mana 6/4 with Trample and Spell Shield, 2 mana draw 2, whatever. Like that's ridiculous. That's way better than you could ever do in any reasonable world with your 6 mana.
Yeah, and you still haven't killed their Sivir, and you're like, well,
I'm dead. Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything has spell shield, and I'm dead. I can see that type of thing happening a lot.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Was that the end of your list?
That was the end of my list.
Excellent. All right, Hugh, enlighten us.
So my top 5. This is in no particular order as well. I didn't pick a tier list or anything. But first card is Dune Keeper. A little boring, I guess. But I just think this card's so strong as an aggro card. 1 mana, 2/1, make a Sand Soldier.
Shurima, obviously.
Shurima.
Yeah, and Sand Soldiers are
1 mana, 1/1s that have Nexus Strike, deal 1. They're ephemeral.
and
well.
ephemeral. Yeah.
Imagine playing this card with Professor Von Yip in play. That's 7 power.
Oh my lord!
It's just like this.
Imagine playing this card on turn 1 and attacking for 4.
Yeah, like think
That's
of
really
how,
where I'm at.
think of how like unlosable your game already feels when their Legion Saboteur hits you on turn 1 with the attack token. This is 1 more damage.
It's 1 more damage. You do lose the Legion Saboteur effect, essentially, just cashing in for a Sand Soldier. But like, Sand Soldiers are really good. There's some Sand Soldier synergy that's pretty good that I think we're going to talk about here in a second.
And Legion Saboteur is a very good card. So
Yeah, and
comparable
the real terrifying part is you can play it in the same deck as Legion Saboteur. And that's what I'm scared about. Like, aggressive decks having good 1-drops is not
Turn
something
1,
to overrate.
This turn 2, this Legion Saboteur swing for 11. Like,
Holy moly.
sorry, swing for 10 because you lost the Sand Soldier from the other turn. Whatever. You'd sequence that right.
Still, it's just really, that's a lot of damage.
It's so much damage.
Yeah, you can have 5 creatures attacking on turn 2 if you play like 1-drop and then 2 of these on turn 2.
Yeah. Crazy.
It doesn't matter what your opponent's card is that they played on turn 2 or whatever, they're gonna have to block.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we can't put Rummage plus Vision in a deck with this card.
Damn,
Darn.
missed out there.
Sure did. The next card is Desert's Wrath, which is a good lead
in the same vein.
Yeah, I just think Sand Soldiers are really good if you couldn't already tell.
I really think these Sand Soldier things are gonna be good too.
Yeah, it's 4 mana, slow, make 2 Sand Soldiers, give Sand Soldiers everywhere, +1/+0, and then make 2 Sand Soldiers. So doubling all your Sand Soldiers' power, making them all hit for 3 if they, hit Nexus.
Yeah,
like
it literally doubles their power, right? like that is not to be understated. It's gonna make them way harder to block, and you want to block them already so that they don't get their Nexus Strike thing, right? Like they are going from hitting for 2. They're going to be really hard to block with 2 power. You could make a lot of them very easily.
Yeah, 4 mana for 2 2/1s. That's just what this card does by itself.
Yeah,
in a vacuum.
they have ephemeral, so it's a little bit worse than that. But
yeah, but I mean,
when you compare it to like Onslaught of Shadows, like it's not that like you're paying essentially 2 more mana for this permanent bonus.
yeah, I'm thinking it was kind of like a pseudo burn removal spell. Like
That too, yeah.
It's probably gonna like on turn.
You can block with them
3,
if you need to, right?
It's on turn 3. It's probably gonna kill one of their things, and the other one will maybe get eaten, or it'll get through. Like I don't know. I'm fine.
Or you get food for 6, and that's a lot.
That's so much. Yeah, so much damage.
And then the second one of these is making all your Sand Soldiers 3/1s.
Yeah, I really think the deceptively powerful part about this card is the second one.
Yeah.
The second one making them 3/1s, and then it's just going to start to get ridiculous.
This card reminds me, real quick, of Heroic Reinforcements in Magic, which was like a very big sleeper card.
What's that
It's
do?
it's a random uncommon from a core set, but it's just like 4 mana, make 2
dudes.
1/1s, give all your dudes +1/+1 in haste until end of turn. Like just ends up being a ton of power. Like it's just very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't sleep on these effects. I think they're really powerful.
Yeah. So the next card I have is actually one of Alex's whispered words. We already talked about that.
Yeah, we said a lot. We said a lot about that one.
Yeah, that one's real good, and I'm excited to play with it. Next card is Ice Shard.
I confess I don't remember the text on this card.
What about you? You know what this card does?
Yeah, it's a 3 mana fast spell in Freljord that deals 1 damage to everything, and everything is all capitalized.
Yes.
Okay, I take it you remember that card.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited to see how this card impacts the meta in general, because 3 mana fast, 1 damage to everything is just, it's a lot of coverage. And with kegs, that's
True. Yeah,
that's huge. Like, I don't know. I think this could be a very, very impactful card. And even if it's not, I think it's just a good card.
I have just like kind of forgot kegs existed, honestly, man.
kegs are hard to remember when you're evaluating this type of stuff. Admittedly, we don't really have a Freljord
Keg
Bilgewater deck, but I mean that's probably largely because we didn't have a good reason to, and now we maybe do. So
yeah, maybe. We'll see.
It also triggers Plunder for Gangplank or Sejuani or actual Plunder cards.
Because, like, I don't know. I guess part of my thought process was, like, think of how good Make It Rain still kind of feels when you actually have a keg out and you get to cast it
Yeah, and then now
This
this
is
always
like- No,
hits
I totally
everything.
agree.
It does hit your stuff, but
I think that's fine.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this card's good. I kind of forgot about it, and I definitely slept on it when I read through the first time.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of build around stuff that you can do with that card to make it good.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I think we should move on to our champions.
one more.
Oh, one more. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Exhaust.
Oh, yeah, this card is sweet.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to play with this card. It is 1 mana focus minus give one of your opponent's creatures. Is it creatures or followers? I think it's units.
I think it's just unit. I'll double check.
Yeah, double check. But give it -2, -0, and vulnerable this round, and it has focus, so you can actually just go it like cast it, and then really, really mess with the combat.
Any opponent, so it can target champions.
Perfect.
So yeah, give an enemy -2, -0, and vulnerable this round. It's going to be kind of hard to get your card back with this card. You're going to have to end up in a combat where you eat their thing, which isn't that hard, but there's lots of tricks and stuff that exists. So you're probably going to get your card back like half the time, but the tempo here and the fact that it's going to kill the thing that you need to kill a lot of the time. I like this card.
I don't think it necessarily has to get your card back. I think
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think
up-
it has to.
Yeah, I think trading up is totally fine. Like it doesn't.
It's only 1 mana.
Yeah, it's 1 mana, and it is a card, but we've seen that matters a lot less in this game.
And with Ruin Runner, for example, a big overwhelm unit that you wanted to hit with multiple times, you can like hit their 4/4, or better yet, their TF.
Yeah.
Eat their creature, trample over for damage. Like,
Or
that's just so huge.
and with overwhelm creatures, it's actually kind of a burn spell. Like, they have like a
absolutely.
5. They have a 5 health creature, but they also have a 1 health creature. Like that's
Also the
kill
2
you.
5-power quick attack champions that we just saw this set, like,
That are going to yoink stuff like that. These
Yeah.
are going to get their card back almost all the time.
and all of the random units that get buffs when they challenge things, in like Demacia and like Renekton. Like, yeah, this card just fits really well.
we kind of stopped. We kind of haven't talked a lot about Renekton since he got spoiled. But this card's obviously ridiculous with Renekton. So
yeah, exactly.
That was only an hour ago for our listeners who are binging this podcast right now.
I suppose that's true. All right, let's move on to the champions we want to talk about. And me and Noble have the same list. So in order, our third favorite champion from this set is Kindred.
Actually, now that you say that out loud, we have reversed our orders.
You have reversed orders.
I think Kindred is the best champion in this expansion.
Fancy. Okay, well, that's actually
Boom.
even better. Cool. Okay, go first. Yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't get to talk about Kindred last time because they weren't spoiled yet. And I just looked at this card and it was just everything that I wanted
It is
to be doing.
really good.
I was like, this card is insane. It's very powerful. It's a 5 mana 4/4 in Shadow Isles. Great region. Been a little slept on recently, but historically hugely dominant. It's a 4 power, 4 health, quick attack. The first time you slay a unit each round, I mark the weakest enemy. Round end, kill units with my mark. Level up, I've seen you slay 2 units with my mark. So, first off, this card is just... It's like the Abyss.
Yeah.
So
it's going to
it's
kill a
hard to
creature
block.
every turn.
Yeah, it's
almost
hard to block.
always.
The
Yeah.
Abyss being
A
From
magic
Magic
card
the
that
Gathering.
kills one of your opponent's creatures every turn.
there we go.
I use way
It's
too many
so
magic
hard
analogies.
to
It's so
get out of it. We're just so entrenched in card game lingo and
Yeah.
vernacular that it's just so hard to come up with new terms.
But see, this is beating down as a 4/4 quick attack, which is very hard to block. And also pretty hard to kill because just, we've seen with Dominance of Twisted Fate and Aphelios that it's even pretty hard to kill 2 and 3 health champions. And it's definitely hard to kill 4 health champions.
It's quick attack is on a lot of things in this set.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
quick attack has been a mechanic or is a keyword that has not been that omnipresent or has not been that present just in general in the game thus far. Like the only units that really see that much play that have it are like Twisted Fate, but he's at 2/2, so it doesn't matter that much. Jinx and Draven, which
And
both
Zed.
make them very good and
Yeah.
is a very big part of the reason why they're so good.
And Zed.
And then like Zed, yeah. And flipped Aphelios, I guess, but whatever,
totally.
So like quick attack, like let's stop and think. Like when was the last time you just like got to block a Jinx and be like not chump a Jinx, block a Jinx?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen ever. Like there's
absolutely.
almost never where I have
Even
where
a Draven.
you don't block Draven.
Yeah, you don't block Draven.
Yeah,
because
that card's unblockable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. These cards are like all unblockable.
And like if you put this card in your deck, like for example, you're like just slotting it into like an Endure-ish aggro deck, right? If you play this card and then you can glimpse one of your units, you got there, you got the trigger, it's going to kill something. That's huge.
Yeah, if they just can't block.
Yeah, and then you attack with like a couple 4-power creatures and they can't make trades because then you mark one of their units and kill it. That's really, really powerful.
Yeah. So admittedly,
granted, you're always blocking. It's on attack, right?
What do you mean it's on attack?
When does she mark something again?
When you slay a unit.
Oh, when you slay.
If you attack and they don't want one of their units to get marked, they can't trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't. They just can't.
They can't
basically
jump.
can't block.
Can't block.
Can't trade.
Unless
can't
they're
jump.
trading off their whole board, in which case it's not marking anything.
Yeah,
But
so that is actually the thing I want to talk about, and that's the reason why I'm a little lower on Kindred, is because I actually think that she won't fit all that well into the like Endure-esque type aggro decks because of exactly the fact that when was the last time you didn't block against Endure aggro?
that's fair.
Oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Like you block every time. You're never going to, this isn't going to be like I'm playing Endure aggro on turn 5. I slam my Kindred. They have 3 creatures and can't block with anything, or they lose 2 of them. No, like they're only really ever going to have 1 or 2 creatures at any point in the game. Same as you, because they have to block.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can't just not block. So, but I am really excited for this card just in like a slightly more mid-rangey.
Yeah. Just like with Rekindler.
Yeah.
With Glimpse
It's
Beyond.
just value.
Yeah. Her chance spell is so weird. It's a Rekindler trigger for 5 mana. It's 5 mana fast, kill a unit, then revive it. Like I know that that's better than not a Rekindler trigger. I'm talking about Chronicler.
You're talking about Chronicler.
There you go.
Yeah. Correct.
It's just a Chronicler of Ruin trigger. I know you can target their stuff, but it's just kind of weird.
It's a weird spell,
But I
yeah.
do think that Kindred is going to be really good and going to be hard to play against. And I'm planning to build multiple decks around her to really see exactly what she does.
Yeah, I think Kindred is excellent, and the only reason she's third in my list is because I think the other 2 champs are better.
Yeah, and also Nasus pairs really well with Kindred, and
Absolutely.
a lot of the other Shurima stuff could. So that can all just be really good.
Yeah. So next up, I guess we both think is the second best card then is Azir.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Sand Soldiers are going to be really good. Azir is so efficiently statted.
Yeah,
he
he's
makes
a
3 mana 1/5, which is exactly what you want this card to be. He's going to flip so easily. He flips when he's seen 10. When you've played, not even he's seen, when you've played 10 units.
When you've summoned 10 units.
Yeah. So it's even better than played. Sorry, when you've summoned 10 units.
It says when allies attack, summon an attacking Sand Soldier. That's when he levels up, and then he levels up, like we said, and then he is one of the Ascended champions. He says when allies attack, summon an attacking Sand Soldier on the backside. He's a 2/6, and when you summon an ally, give us both +1/+0 this round, and then level up. You've restored the Sun Disc, and then he does some insane.
He does
crap.
some ridiculous.
He
replaces your deck.
Yeah.
He replaces your deck with the Emperor's deck, which are all like absurdly above rate. They're like 2 mana 5/4s with Fearsome that draw a card when you play them.
Just nonsense. Yeah, absolute nonsense. I cannot wait. I want to do that. Not because I think it's good necessarily, but because I think it's going to be so sweet. What I do think is good is just going to be playing Azir in a very aggressive Sand Soldier deck.
I think so
It's
too.
probably not going to have the Sun Disc in it, sadly.
Probably not.
But
Azir is. I also think Azir is very
Great with
powerful.
Hecarim.
Hecarim is the champion I most want to talk about with Azir. Azir Hecarim seems insane to me. It's going to be so aggressive. And these Hecarim decks, they used to be like Lucian Hecarim, I think I can pretty safely say is the most popular Hecarim deck right now with the Grand Plaza or whatever. You're getting to trade out like the Grand Plaza and those like kind of blowouty turns for really good 1-drops, another champion that you really want, right? Like Lucian was pretty good in that deck and even really flipped a lot, especially because of the Grand Plaza, but he just always died, right? Azir, I do not expect to have that problem really at all.
Absolutely. It's a lot more of a long game.
Yeah, it can play a long game much better.
And get back Shark Chariots every turn.
You get back Shark Chariot every turn.
Shark Chariot.
Yeah. And Shark Chariot's an all-time favorite of mine. So anytime I get to put Shark Chariot into play, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say on Azir, Hugh? I mean,
no.
But yeah, what more can we say? He's really good, and I'm excited to play with him.
He's really good. I don't know. It's just the hardest part is I keep thinking like, oh, what if he goes in discard? Like you can't do that. You can't do that. Like, that's literally not
the weird part about Shurima cards is that they literally can't go in any deck that already exists.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, and I'm so excited to see what happens.
Which is absolute mind melter every time for me.
Yeah, every
It's
single
like
time.
what deck does this card go in? Oh,
like a weird,
Can't.
disappointing
I
epiphany.
can splash it in Mist Wraiths.
Yes, there you
Pew,
go.
pew.
There you
Got
go.
him.
Got
There
it.
you go.
All right, and then the last card me and Noble have on our list is Jarvan the Fourth. So
I think he's the best.
I think this is the best card in the set.
I just think Kindred's so sweet. I'm not going to put this dumb
that's totally
beater at first.
Yeah, I think the Kindred is way cooler than Jarvan, but I think Jarvan is just ridiculous. I've talked about it before. Jarvan,
imagine them playing a Kindred and then you Jarvan them the next turn. Insane.
Jarvan breaks one of the fundamental rules of the game, and one of that fundamental rule of the game is that like on my turn I can either attack before you get the chance to do something, or I can play a thing, but then you get a chance to respond. So you're always going to either attack immediately so your opponent doesn't get a chance to do something, or you and your opponent both get the chance to do something.
With very little exception, that is how it works. That's why there aren't burst speed actual removal spells.
Precisely.
But sometimes you get to hush an elusive and then open with your elusives, and it's insane.
Yes, absolutely. It's ridiculous. And Risen Miss, I think, was the biggest reason why that Fearsome's aggro deck was as efficient as it was, because it broke this rule. And you get to couple this with Jarvan, who is a 6-mana 5/3 that's going to eat their biggest thing. Great. He has barrier. Great. His level up condition, not that hard. Great. Demacia really needed another champion that it wanted to play.
Oh, yeah, boy, did it.
It basically had none of them. This champ looked great, right? Like, it seems Stony Suppressor, one of the best cards in the meta right now. Great against Targon. We didn't have great Stony Suppressor decks. The only one was Scouts, and the reason why we were playing it is basically entirely because of Stony Suppressor. Jarvan the Fourth, Stony Suppressor, they're going to be best friends. Like, I think that this card is ridiculous. I think you're going to lose to it a lot. I think I'm going to play it a lot. This is going to be where I start in day one. I think it's going to be, I'm going to play 5 games, assume it's broken, and then move on because it's going to be boring. But like, I think that it's probably the best card in the set. That's my day zero take, is that I think Jarvan is the best card in the set.
Wow. That's a tall claim.
It is. Yeah.
All right, Hugh.
I'm willing to eat those words if I'm wrong, but with how good I think Risen Miss was, it has the same play pattern as Risen Miss. If Jarvan's bad, I'm gonna blame it on Demacia again.
Oh, and see, that's totally the reason I'm not nearly as high on. Like, I think
Demacia's like sleeper really good, but like Alex just said, none of their champions are good.
Yeah,
like Quinn,
I think the units
Garen,
are good.
Lucian, Fiora's
they're
good.
all bad.
Fiora's good, and specifically Fiora decks. But like, what other Demacia champions are there?
You can't just play a Demacia deck.
Shyvana?
who just got a big bump with Dragon Chow, might I add.
You're forgetting Lux.
Oh my god, exactly.
Yeah, so Jarvan might just go in the Dragon deck. Shyvana Jarvan with dragons? Sure. Great. Like, can you imagine? Like, it's like, all right, turn 4, here's this 4/4 that eats my Dragon Chow, or that eats my Dragon Chow, draws me a card, makes my champ bigger. Turn 5, here's this Screeching Dragon. Attack, flip my Shyvana. Turn
7.
Turn 7 in this world. We're on turn 6 we play something. Invulus Vox. I don't care what it is. Turn 7, attack for like 15, challenge your biggest thing. You can't. What do you do? Like, you have to have played enough units to be able to survive a Demacia open attack with a 5/3 eating your biggest thing on turn 6. That's really hard to do, I think.
Yeah, and even if they frostbite it, you still have the barrier, so your champion's not dead.
And when he flips, he's ridiculous, by the way.
You can entomb it.
You can entomb it.
Boom. Got it. Playing the long game. All right, Hugh, what are your champions?
Oh, yeah. So my champions are all different. No, they're not. I also have Jarvan.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't need to talk too much about
We don't need to talk about Jarvan.
I can talk more about Jarvan if you want.
I'm sure you can.
I'm writing an article about Jarvan. Y'all look out for it. It'll be out tomorrow. Well, yesterday when you're listening to this.
Yes.
Or maybe today. Who knows? We have a lot of articles to release.
There's a lot of things we're doing. Anyway.
I'm going to be streaming tomorrow in a Jarvan cosplay.
No, you're not.
I know. I wish I could.
By that, he means yesterday.
True.
Okay.
I just really like Jarvan. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So, this isn't necessarily in particular order, but I think I would put my 2 ones that differed from you guys were Sivir and Lissandra. I think I'm going to put Sivir above Lissandra, but I'm still not sure. I think Sivir is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Putting Spell Shield on a 5/3 quick attacker who costs 4 mana is just like, she's such an efficient, like, we're back to the efficient beater with Spell Shield.
Yeah, once again, when was the last time you blocked a Jinx effectively?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait. When was the last time you killed Jinx with a removal spell? Every time? Well, that's not going to work anymore. You know, like we're going to have to figure something else out for this one.
And the answer is still not every time because there's...
Because sometimes you just lose to it instead.
Well, there's so many decks that just don't deal 3 damage at instant speed. Like,
also true, yeah.
You're happy when you're playing against the Jink deck when you have Get Excited or Gotcha in your deck. Both of those are PNZ.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
really good.
Targon can't do it. They can hush her and then block in trades and 2 for 1
does not
themselves.
work against Sivir because it gets spell shielded.
Exactly. And
I don't really know how you're supposed to deal with this card. And it's 4 mana.
Exactly. And the moment this card got spoiled, I put in our group chat, someone tell me right now how you cleanly answer Sivir.
It was just crickets.
The answer is make it block. But then it probably blocks one of your 2 power dudes and then
attacks again.
Like,
yep.
I think in the world where their Sivir is blocking your creatures, you were probably fine already. Like or they were horribly behind. Like something bad happened to them.
And the other thing here is that every turn that goes by where you've not yet found an answer to Sivir, you take 5 or you chump. Or 5 is a lot.
Or one of your creatures just dies.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I think Sivir is insanely good. There's been a lot of talk about her level up, about 35 damage. And I'm writing an article specifically about how easy it is to flip Sivir. I'll give you a quick spoiler. Not that hard, I don't think. After I did a few tests, and I won't go into exactly what it is because I wrote an article about it. But I did some tests, and I think that in most games, Sivir should flip.
Yeah, and I mean, just 35. Like, there's so much damage that you're dealing that you never really think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and even if she doesn't flip, I don't really care. Her flip is not really that much better than her front side. Like, attacking allies get all keywords is definitely really good and will probably end the game. But you know, like I would play that card. I would play Sivir if she didn't have a backside.
It re-ups her spell shield.
Really?
Doesn't it?
Does it? I don't know.
Okay, so when flip Zoe, right?
Yeah.
I guess this is a bad example since all things with spell shield
exactly.
come in with spell shield.
Yeah.
I think it re-ups her spell shield, but I'm not sure.
If it re-ups her spell shield, that's absolute nonsense.
Well, but except you're very rarely plinking off the spell shield
and then not dealing with it.
Not dealing
that's
with
true.
It then, but like it does make you do that, which is fair.
I'm mostly, I mean, the quick attack it's giving your whole team quick attack, and that is really relevant. If it gives your whole team spell shield, that's obviously ridiculous. Yeah. And you're going to
it's not hard to give your whole team trample with the cards that we've seen.
No, yeah, Overwhelm was really easy.
Sorry, Overwhelm. Yep, I did the thing.
We're gonna correct ourselves every time we say trample instead of Overwhelm, and it's probably gonna happen for at least another 5 or 6 episodes. We're just so
I'm annoyed. I'm usually pretty good about it.
We all spent years of our lives playing Magic, so it's just really hard.
At least
to
we
overrate.
never said flying instead of elusive.
True. That's a good one. All right. I'm very, very excited for Sivir.
Yeah,
I think she's going to be so good.
I think she's really powerful.
She's in the Jarvan camp for me, where it's like, I think that she's just like really, really good, and I don't think she's all that cool, but I think she's really, really good. So
yeah, exactly. And now, my other champion's Lissandra. I've thought about this a lot more.
Yeah, what changed?
I think she's just I think her secondary, like, make the little frozen thrall thing is a lot better than we're giving it credit for. I think it lends her an amount of inevitability that we should be respecting more, I guess, is what I'm going for.
Like, it's turn 11.
I think that's fine.
Okay. I mean, it is an 8/8 trampler. Like, it will probably just kill
And
them
also, just remember that there is a very reasonably on-rate card that says cut that in half.
That's fair, yeah.
That's the thing. And it says round end, so you can't really react to it unless you have an instant speed removal spell. Like, you fast speed removal spell. Like, you just, you put that down on turn 5, and they're like, oh, wait, now there's an 8/8 now instead of 4 turns later. Like, that's a lot faster than you expect.
That's a lot faster, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge tempo swing. Also, it allows you to sort of not establish a threat. It's not actually a threat yet, but it's inevitability, and it allows you to do like board wipe without actually like removing it.
That's relevant. I didn't consider that. So all right,
and it sort of banks a big tempo play for later, like, because that's later in the game. It's the thing that's hard for a lot of like something like ASOL is like it's your whole turn when you play it, and you can get chumped. Like this can also get chumped, but it also lets you queue up this huge
dumb
swing.
thing. Yeah. So
it can't get chumped. It's the 8/8 has Overwhelm.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that.
So I will say, I think that Lissandra. So what we said about Lissandra, I mostly stand by, in that I think that it is worse than Tryndamere and Trundle, probably in the decks that want it. However, I will say that I think I did discredit its the fact that it is so good against aggro. And, while I think that, Tryndamere, Trundle, or whatever in the Field Rush decks, or Sejuani or whatever in the like more mid-rangey Freljord decks are all better at what they do. But the thing that Lissandra does is that she's insane against aggro. She if there is an aggro dominant meta, Lissandra is really, really good. And that is easily going to outweigh the power of like Trundle or whatever, just because, Lissandra can block like 2 or 3 things. She's a 2/3 with Tough. Like Tough is we just talked about how hard it is to deal 4 damage.
Troll chant.
Aggro decks just like never get to attack again if you go Lissandra into Trundle. Lissandra into Avalanche into Trundle. Like that's just so
nonsense.
Post. Yeah.
Yeah, and she only takes 1 damage from your Avalanche.
Yeah, and can you imagine casting Troll Chant on her? Like, yeah, exactly. I know we mentioned that a little bit, but like, let's stop and think about that again. Can you imagine casting Troll Chant on her? Like, it's so good.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think that if Lissandra has a place in the meta, I'm willing to let up on Lissandra. I think that she has the ability to be good, specifically targeted against aggro, and that's a good spot for a champion to be. I'm actually pretty happy with where she ended up in that case.
Be really good with Talia. Like that.
She could be really good with Talia as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see where she ends up. Honestly, I think Lissandra is the champion I'm most excited to see what happens with from this set.
Also, she is a pip towards Talia's level up, and then if you can like copy that and then get 2 8/8s, like it does get pretty ridiculous.
There's some stuff that could go on.
There's some stuff that could go on there, but that's we're starting to get into a lot of hoops there, and I don't really like.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we shouldn't go too far down this rabbit hole.
Just this 3-drop by herself kind of will eventually win the game if you like. She's a lot of value on her own.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so I think now that we've gotten through all our favorite cards from the set, I think it's time to talk about the drama of the week, which has been the notably absent card from any of our lists, and that's Leblanc.
To be fair, I almost put Leblanc on my list. I do think she's powerful.
I do think she's really good, to be honest. So for those of you guys...
I don't think that's the problem. I just want to clarify. Like, I don't think people are looking and they're like, this champion sucks. Why does this champion suck? A lot of champions kind of suck.
Yes.
No one's mad about those, for the most part.
So LeBlanc is I'll just read the card for starters. Absolutely. For anyone who might not know, LeBlanc is a 3-mana 5/2 with quick attack. She's Noxus. And she says, level up, I have seen you deal 15 plus damage. Her flip side is a 6/3 with quick attack. It says, each time I see you deal 15 plus damage, create a mirror image in hand. If you already have one, reduce its cost by 1 instead. Mirror image is 2 mana, slow. Summon an exact ephemeral copy of an ally with 5 plus power. So, I think, real quick, power level of LeBlanc, pretty good, right? Like I think this card's good.
Dies to Mystic Shot, which is really annoying, but against not PNZ, it's like a lot harder to kill her.
We just talked about how hard it is to block quick attack units.
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
3 mana, she's big, she's good. But, so everyone was really upset about LeBlanc, and I think it's because she didn't super deliver from a flavor point. I know that, so a little bit of backstory about me. I like was a LeBlanc one trick. I only played LeBlanc in League of Legends for like a year and a half of my life a couple years ago. That's not true anymore, but LeBlanc is my favorite champion in League of Legends. So she was the champion I was most excited to see out of this expansion. And I think that she has such powerful flavor. Like LeBlanc has so many cool things about her as the champion, and honestly, most League of Legends champions do. And she is a mind-controlling mage who's been secretly pulling the threads of Noxian government for like 1,000 years.
She's like low-key the leader of Noxus forever,
and has been forever. Yeah. Whatever, behind the scenes, right? Like, and she has a really cool in-game flavor where she jumps around a lot and is one of the highest mobility champions in the game. She jumps over walls all the time. She teleports a lot.
She double casts abilities.
Yeah,
it's all just very
and
cool.
She gets to teleport all over constantly, make clones, control the clones, right? And not really any of that transferred very well into her card. And people were pretty upset
People are very
The
upset.
subreddit is like
On fire.
Yeah, that is how I would describe
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So I want to say, so like as someone who was really excited for LeBlanc, I do have to say that I was a little disappointed when I read this card. I personally, as such a huge LeBlanc fan, and this is something that you won't hear me say often, so maybe get a clip of this because you won't hear it often. I would rather LeBlanc have been some 6 or 7 mana champion that was completely unplayable but did something really cool and unique than this version, personally. And I think I'm going to play this version of LeBlanc. And obviously, I'm very happy that I'm going to get to play with my favorite champions card. Like, I wanted her to be good no matter what. But this one just doesn't feel like I'm getting the LeBlanc experience out of my champion. And that's something that Riot had really delivered on, especially very recently, which I think is why we're kind of all feeling like somebody took our toys away when we got this LeBlanc.
I think a huge reason of that is that the most recently released champion is Aphelios, who is just like, there are so many words on that damn card. Like,
yeah.
He has Nightfall, he makes these guns, and then you have to like, it took us like a whole episode talking about him to really get what he did. And then we were still like, we have to play with him to see. And he had a very Aphelios play pattern. And then the 3 champions before that were Zoe.
Very high concept.
Victor, who
also pretty high concept.
Yeah, and does some really cool stuff, even if he didn't end up being super powerful.
I think everyone's opinion on Victor is that he's super cool and not quite that good, but really cool.
Yeah.
Right?
And then, oh God.
It was Victor, Zoe, and Riven.
And Riven, while Riven wasn't super powerful,
she also did
arguably
cool
much
thing.
more interesting than LeBlanc.
No, I don't think it's arguable.
I think it's arguable. I think she is much more interesting.
I agree.
The thing is, so like watching the cinematic trailer, you're like, oh, there's this cool play style where we're like, you know, playing the support card that copies LeBlanc, and now we have 2 LeBlancs, and then we can copy her with her spell, and then it's another LeBlanc, and then we're doing a strike thing, and then we're drawing some cards, and all these reputation cards are really cool, and it's like, but none of that was things LeBlanc did. It was just like, when you play her, I think when you play her, and I think people will like her more when you've played with her followers, and that will all come through.
It just doesn't read it.
Yeah, just not when you read it, because the front side is just a 5/2 quick attack.
And
like, that's all.
I think that a really big problem, and the reason why LeBlanc in particular is getting this attention, is because she is a fan favorite. People love LeBlanc, me included. Obviously, she's my favorite champion. She's one of the faces of the game. I think she's up there with like champions
Ari
like
and
Ari
Sona.
and Sona, right? Like she is on a lot of the like faces. Like when you see a League of Legends banner, it has LeBlanc like front and center, right? Like the like when you Google League of Legends artwork, like there's like LeBlanc and Ari like standing in the front, like at a Baron pit or whatever. Like LeBlanc is one of the faces of League of Legends, I think. And people care about this champion, and she has really cool flavor. And when we look at a card like Sivir, nobody cared that Sivir was boring, right? Because nobody cares about Sivir. And I hate to say it, but there's so many champions in League. There are favorites, right? Like, and Sivir is not one of them. She's really old. Her kit's kind of outdated in League of Legends, right? There aren't that many people that play Sivir. She has a really low play rate. People play LeBlanc a lot. So nobody cared that Sivir was kind of boring, because guess what? She's kind of boring in League of Legends and she's not a fan favorite. But LeBlanc people wanted to be really cool, right? And it didn't really deliver.
And especially because like I think they match the way she plays in League very well. She goes all in to try to kill you. If you frostbite her or stop it or whatever, she's going to die.
Yeah.
Like that's just, she's an assassin. But people wanted to lean more into the mage than the assassin. And then they're like, oh, she's an assassin, so you put quick attack on her and she does damage. Sure, she's a 5/2. Great.
Yeah, something that this is probably going to make people mad, but I think
you should say it. Yeah,
I think that people are way too mad about this.
Oh, absolutely. Agree.
I think that
100%.
I think that
100%.
I think something that people aren't really thinking about is, you mentioned it, Noble, as the feel of when you play her with her cards. I think that her play pattern in League is definitely going to feel very similar to her play pattern in Legends of Runeterra. Like, when you see your LeBlanc in League walk up to the enemy Nasus, you're just like, oh God, please no, don't do it, don't do it. And then she like jumps in and he doesn't die, and then he turns around. Yeah, exactly.
No good.
Yeah, and then they just go bonk and she's dead. Like,
but when you see your LeBlanc walk up to Azir, it's like, oh yeah, get him. Yeah, go
exactly.
girl. Yeah, you killed that Sand Emperor. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And she's still somewhat like she still has all these interesting support cards. And I agree that it is unfortunate that just her in a vacuum by herself reading the card, it's like, wait, this is, and I admit this is less than I expected too. Like I expected more than this.
I really only think that people are mad about this because it is LeBlanc.
Yeah.
Like I said,
this card was literally Talon.
Nobody
literally
would
Samira.
care, I don't
This is
think.
something that is popular on the internet. I'm quoting other people here.
But it's a good
many
point,
people
yeah.
have said, like, if this was Samira, if this was
Talon,
like, no one would care.
Yeah,
Be
absolutely.
like, oh, they'd be like, oh, that's a cool Talon card. Moving on.
This design also could have been Zed, and people would have been pissed, I think. Right? Like, this design could have almost literally been Zed, right? If this champion's name was Zed, and it said, I've seen you deal 15 plus damage, I flip, you create a shadow clone in your hand that says that exact text.
Yeah, something
right?
that
Like,
is
people probably would have been pissed about that too, because it's just not as cool as they want Zed to be, who's another fan favorite.
something that's notable is that both of, I think, the best design options for LeBlanc already exist on two separate 3-mana assassins. Both Katarina and Zed both do things that I'm like, ooh, LeBlanc should do this. Wait, Katarina bounces herself like LeBlanc's W in League, where she jumps and jumps
That's
back.
another thing. People like Katarina. Katarina's champion is like really cool. Like she feels like an assassin.
And she's
very
awful.
good. Yeah, and that's fine.
I would, and I think a lot of people, me included, would have rather had LeBlanc be awful and like Katarina and really cool and true to her flavor than good. Now, I agree with Hugh's point. I think people are way too upset. My feelings don't go much past, I'm like a little disappointed in LeBlanc, but like that's about it. I'm not furious. I think that if this is good for the overall health of the game, then they should have done it, right? They got to play with these cards. This flavor easily could come through more. When you play LeBlanc and there's a cool voice line that she says, and you level her up and there's a really cool animation and she's jumping around and a bunch of magic's flinging everywhere. Like you might feel it more. You play your Black Rose Spy, right? And you have 3 LeBlancs in a turn, 3 flipped LeBlancs. You're going to feel like you're playing LeBlanc at that point, probably.
Yeah.
So
And
I think I do expect it to come together a little more.
Also, like at the end of the day, I'm a Spike. I don't care how the card tastes. I just want it to be good.
Yeah, I'm a huge Spike. So this is like the only card. This is basically the only champion where I wanted a really cool card.
Yeah, and the fact that even you wanted that is indicative of how the community feels, right?
Exactly,
It's
because
true.
I'm like the spikiest Spike imaginable.
Also,
if
really-
this wasn't my literal favorite card, I wouldn't care.
Really quick, we should definitely just go over the 3 archetypes of Magic players really quick, because we've
We say
definitely
Spike a lot.
we definitely have said Spike in the past. So it's 3, right? Timmy, Johnny, Spike.
Yeah, and they're just they're words used by
Magic.
game like the designers and developers of Magic to describe the kind of players that they're catering experiences towards. Spikes like are competitive players. They like efficient
Tournament
cards.
grinders.
Yeah, they like efficient cards. They like cards that make them feel smart. They like
they're-
cards that
they're
let them
people-
outplay their opponents.
They're people who, when you ask what your favorite card is, they say Lightning Bolt, right? Like just efficient,
or
just
in Legends of
good.
Runeterra, Mystic Shot.
Yeah, like or
Something very simple, very efficient, very
on rate,
effective.
good.
Twisted Fate is a great example of a Spike card.
These are people who would play blank pieces of paper with just an effect on them that, like, with numbers that are good. They
Absolutely.
don't care about the flavor. They just care about the
Don't care about the
mechanics,
art.
and they want to win
etc.
games.
Yeah.
Timmy is the type of player who wants to slam Aesol, Tryndamere, power play.
Targon's
Lissandra,
Peak.
8-drop.
The Targon's Peak people, usually.
Yeah, they want a board full of 10/10s with Overwhelm to kill you with, and they'll wait to kill you so they can swing with extra 10.
because they just want it to be. They just want to put as much power into play
Yeah.
as they possibly can,
And
or
that's
do
what
the
power-
sweetest thing that they possibly can.
And that's what Timmy's want. Johnny is the combo player. They want a lot of fiddly bad cards that by themselves don't do anything, but when you assemble the Voltron
You
that is
did
your
it.
deck.
You're like, yes.
9-card combo, 40 actions. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the people who are the Johnnies right now in Legends of Runeterra are currently the hive mind is currently trying to figure out how to get the Watcher in play as soon as possible.
Spectral Matron. Yeah.
And to be fair, that's also a Timmy and
a little-
Johnny thing.
little
going on.
overlap,
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, there's actually a lot of overlap across all 3 archetypes. Let's get the
Unsurprisingly.
Watcher in play as soon as possible because it's a very powerful thing to do. So Spikes like it. It's
Big.
It's
and it's a combo.
17 mana. So Timmy's like it.
they just like big numbers.
Yeah, they really like big
I mean
numbers.
big numbers.
Yeah. And Johnny's want it because it's hard to do, and they want to like play with Johnny's like to play solitaire.
Yeah, another Johnny thing is like Talia. Like That's I'm doing the landmark combo thing.
Or like something like like weird cards that they don't know how it's good, but they want to make it good.
Yeah. Or they, like to interact with their own board, usually over interacting with your opponents.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's that.
Quick Magic history lesson.
And with that, I think that's the LeBlanc point. I hope that she's really cool to play with.
Yeah. They like the developing is hard. Designing is so hard. Like they can't knock it out of the park with every champion
and I think maybe time will tell that they did with this one.
Exactly.
Honestly,
maybe.
Like, I'm pretty sure these people are better at their job than most of the people complaining right now.
Agreed.
That's another thing,
Riot has been great with the development and design of this game so far. So even if LeBlanc didn't deliver fully on the flavor, I'm sure that the people at Riot have heard the criticism, and I think that the game is still great, and regardless of LeBlanc's flavor being kind of a miss, like
that's not going to change.
Especially if the card plays well, then I'm totally willing to look past it, even as my favorite champion. So
absolutely.
All right, let's get into our questions for this week. Starting with our question of the week. This one comes from Time in the Discord. They ask, "What is your opinion of the reputation mechanic?"
The whole time we were talking about LeBlanc, I was like, just let me at it. I want to talk about this question. I think the reputation mechanic is really interesting. I read the name Reputation, and I was like, cool. And then I read the effect, and I was like, what?
Yeah, then I read it again.
And then I was like, so I get like Reputation for like hitting with big dudes. It just like has to be the weirdest mechanic that they've made. Just like,
without a doubt.
With the combination of name and flavor, and like Reputation just reads like a champion level up. And like,
that's a weird thing to have as a general mechanic.
Yeah.
It's weird to have a like champion level up-esque ability stapled onto my 4-mana draw 2,
and they put it on
makes it cheaper.
And
it's weird.
Puts on this they put on these like tricky value spells, and it's like, I want this making my decimate cost 3, like, because that's what I'm doing with Trifarian Assessors and Trifarian Glory Seeker. Like the cards that you think about that will trigger Reputation are like 2-mana 5/2s and 2-mana 5/1s, which don't scream the word reputation to me. It's like, I guess through force of arms, I'm gonna get famous.
Yeah. In my head, it makes total sense to me, because in my head, I'm like, reputation is like, I'm a mercenary, and the more jobs I do, the better at my job I am. I gain a rep. Like, I think of this like a D&D campaign.
Yeah, that actually, now that you literally said that, I was about to side with Noble, and then you said that first, and now I'm in. Yeah, I love
that's why people thought that LeBlanc should be Samira, because she's a mercenary, and Talon because he's a hired assassin. Like, that's why. And it does make sense, but it did take me a while. Like, the amount I had to think about it was unusual.
That's fair.
I'm really saying.
I actually like the name of the mechanic, regardless of the name and the fact that it's kind of weird. I think it's going to play really good. I actually am really excited to play with this mechanic. Really? I think that the cards that they put Reputation on, like I said, like Black Rose Spy, Whispered Words, stuff like that, like these decks are going to have efficient mid to late game turns,
then I'm thinking
because once they turn on Reputation.
But then I'm thinking about the cards that I have to play to enable that, and they're
different from the payoffs.
And bad and not.
I don't think they're that clunky, and I don't think they're that bad.
It's like a bunch of like random, like they put in this set like a 2-mana 5/2 ephemeral. Like, I don't want to put that card in my deck. And there's like a 3-mana 5/1 that makes a Guile, and that card's like fine, but like it's just a bunch of like 5/1s and 5/2s, and that stat line is just historically not good. But maybe I'm crazy.
That's very true.
I think this stat line is way better than we're giving it credit for.
Now that there's a payoff for doing it as well, that's a relevant point. Like, the fact that you are going to be able to have your 2-drop be very good in the late game is another reason why you want to put Trifarian Glory Seeker in your deck, right? And that plus Legion Drummer was already a pretty powerful thing to be doing. Yeah. It's relatively easily interacted with and hasn't seen that much play right now because of it, and also because the payoff for doing Legion Drummer Trifarian Glory Seeker right now is just that. Like, it's I get to eat a thing. But if you're getting to eat a thing that's also eventually going to make your card draw cheaper, that's also going to make your 2-drop into a 6/4 trampler, that's also going to, whatever your other reputation cards you have.
Your early game is now affecting your late game, and that's a pretty big shift.
Yeah, and not to mention, Legion Drummer plus Trifarian Glory Seeker is just really good too, right?
And to be fair, another thing that I want to add, These cards are actually really good with Riven. Because Trample and Quick Attack are really good on large power creatures. And the +2/+0 gets creatures that wouldn't otherwise be 5 power up to 5 power. And then like putting the blade on like LeBlanc or even LeBlanc or Sivir. Sivir's a really good one.
Sivir Riven seems good too.
Yeah. I guess you're only adding the keyword overwhelm, but that's still
which is lethal.
Yeah.
By the way. I think that I want to cautiously optimistically say that Riven might be good on this in this patch. Or she might find her home.
If she's not, I don't think she ever will be.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. She might find her home in this set.
Yeah.
That would be sweet if she did.
It would be.
All right. Next up, Dr. Beeves asks, which out-of-meta archetype do you think will see a resurgence, if any? Well, I guess that was, completely accidental and well said. Yeah, Riven, actually.
I think that new Spider support card is really good.
Oh, yeah, the Spider stuff?
Yeah, they gave some Spiders some love, and I both love and hate to see that because I hate spiders.
You're going to be on the Ice Shard side of the spiders being good.
I certainly hope so. I want Make It Rain to be good. I want to play TF Swain. Like, let's go.
TF Swain might be good again too, right? Like,
yeah. So the
Whispered Word, there's a lot of good Noxus stuff coming.
We got 2 spiders. Sorry, Alex.
No, please.
One of them is a 2/5 that says attack for 4 in Noxus. Attack grants spider allies +1/+0, which is permanent, which is that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Attacks is a 3/5 for 4 mana, and then also pumps all your other like random Elise and stuff. And then there's also a 3 mana 3/2 when I'm summoned, grant me +1/+1 and fearsome if an ally died this round. So this card is like Callista, but only if you trigger it, which isn't great, but it is an aggressively costed spider.
Yeah, and I would like to mention really fast that like we've put Elise in just decks, like a lot of decks, just because she's a really good 2-drop, and we basically never plan to flip her, or we don't care about flipping her, anything like that. But like Elise is one of the best champions in the game, and if that means that if you get to make Elise shine, then all the more reason to do that. Then I'm pretty much all in. Spiders has been good in the past. Elise is still great. Like, this deck should have the tools to be good, probably. And it might just still not be because, it does still have the like 1 power tribal thing, and that's always going to be an interesting niche place in the meta, but it's going to be more powerful now, I think.
Yeah.
Then other cards, like these are all Noxus cards, but like Crimson Bloodletter, the next time you summon another ally, deal 1 to it and grant me +1/+1. For 1 mana, it's a 1/2 is like it's gonna be a 1 mana 2/3 that is triggering your Crimson units. Like that's pretty real. Like there was also this Concurrent Timelines is just a whole archetype in 1 card.
I'm really excited to build the Concurrent Timelines deck.
Very hard.
That's gonna be a day 1 deck for me for sure. It's very Hearthstone. You're right.
So many day 1 decks. My God.
There's too many. There's way too many.
So many cards. I'm so excited.
Then there are some really random and weird Bilgewater and Ionia cards, and they're all we get. And that one feels kind of weird.
It feels weird, but I'm down.
I tell you what, I'm not going to play this patch. It's Ionia.
Yeah.
I doubt I will be playing any Ionia decks on day 1, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I really like the region.
Karma is somehow good now, but I
can hold out hope.
Always.
All right. Our next question comes from Tede. They say 2 questions. So the first one here: what champion combination are you most excited to try out, and why is it Nass's Kindred Noble?
That was I read
your mind,
and I was like, he's like, what is your favorite thing? And I was like, something with Kindred, probably Nasus. And then I read the second part and I was like, wow, he just
Soul Raid, the Soul Raid, yeah.
That and Jarvan Sivir. 5 power makes 35, or Jarvan LeBlanc, just like Jarvan's really good, and then there are these other 2 5 power champions, and there are cards that care about it. Also Jarvan Renekton, Jarvan's just good.
Jarvan's just really good. For me, the one I am most excited to try is LeBlanc. For obvious reasons, she's my favorite champion, so I'm most excited to play with LeBlanc, even if I think Sure Flavor kind of missed. I am not looking forward to playing with Jarvan and then having to play Jarvan for the next 2.5 months to make Masters.
I am most looking forward to playing Lissandra, and I still have no idea what I want to pair her with.
That's sweet. That's such a cool place to be at.
There's just so many things that you could maybe do, and I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
All right. Second, They ask, a few episodes back, you guys talked about what it takes to improve in the game and how you approach learning. How do you evaluate each game, and how do you identify key takeaways to improve on with time? Ooh. So as a general focus, it's actually really hard, I think, to identify your gaps as a player as a whole and try to patch them over time. And I really think that the best way to identify your gaps as a player is to have somebody else watch your games. I think it's really hard for you to identify your own weaknesses as a pattern over multiple games, because if you had already, they would have been fixed by now, presumably, right? Like,
hopefully, anyway.
A fresh set of eyes goes a long ways. And it's especially if, you know, that it's your specific goal is look at these games. Why am I not having as much success? What would you do consistently differently? And you need a pretty big sample size to do that. And it's hard to do. And it requires a lot of work, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do actually think that it's like one of the best merits to coaching is like, if you are looking for someone to tell you why your game or where in what aspects your game needs improvement, a fresh set of eyes, especially with the lens of a coach whose literal, you know, job it is or whatever, is to analyze your games and figure it out, you're usually going to end up getting an answer, I think, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I had a 2-hour session with someone in our Discord last weekend, and I think it seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah. And what we just were talking about seemed like a primary takeaway was like being able to identify holes in your game. It's so huge, and it's so hard to do by yourself.
Yeah, but if you do want to do it by yourself, sorry to cut you off really quick. I think recording your own games and going back and watching them on a different day is the best way to do it. And that requires work and time and isn't really that fun, but it's hard to do. And so it is an important part of improving. Sorry, you were saying, Noble.
No, that's
pretty much it, which is a friendly reminder that we are still offering coaching. So if you want details, you can send an email to champslickpodcast@gmail.com. Details are in the description to wherever you are listening this.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one last thing. If another option, as opposed to just watching replays, something else you can do, just everything you're doing, say it out loud. Just start talking, even if you're by yourself, start talking to yourself out loud. And all of a sudden, when you hear your thoughts spoken, you will start to think about your thoughts more. Like, that's a weird thing to say, but it'll help you turn your brain on, which a lot of people fail to do.
Matters a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And suddenly you'll notice maybe like loops that you keep going through. You'll keep coming back to the same thought. You'll start to, it'll help you pinpoint things.
Yeah, if you explain,
patterns will emerge.
Exactly. And this is actually one of the things that I noticed. I'm really glad you mentioned this, because this totally blanked my head, and I actually would love to add on to that. Is I've done a lot of like commentary for Magic events or a little bit of Hearthstone, stuff like that. And I actually find that I usually play better when I'm forced to explain the reasoning behind why I'm doing things. Like when I am trying to, like, you know, play on stream or, you know, explain why a player is making a certain choice when I'm casting a game or commentating it, I find that I can explain out the reasoning better, and it helps me. Frequently I'll like be halfway through explaining it and then be like, no, actually I like this better. Here's why. And that's usually how I end up like noticing that certain play is better, or how I end up finding like really hard lines is usually because I'm talking about it. It's really hard to find yourself.
And then you're like, wait a minute.
Click.
The line.
Yeah. Click.
Yeah, light bulb.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Carinal asks, is there more fun in trying new stuff at the start of a new expansion, or grieving people trying new things with TF Fizz?
For this question, I'm very glad we took that brief few minutes to talk about what spikes are. Because
yeah, absolutely.
The answer is, if you are a spike, it is you are gonna just have a hell of a time, just
roll people,
crushing brews these next few days with Fizz TF. Or
Shreem, these decks are not going to be prepared for the amount of elusive units that you are going to put in play.
Or you can just play discard aggro. Like, you can just eat people alive with low to the ground.
You can climb like crazy the first week in expansion drops with whatever the best aggro deck was from the last patch.
Yeah,
it's always true.
It can be rough sometimes, though, because the decks can be tuned. Like, the best aggro deck from last meta was the best because it was best into that meta. So it might be true that like Pirates is actually the one that you want to climb with. I'm not
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
But like, you know, do a little bit of analysis of that. You might run into a ton of like
You're gonna need
Kindreds that are hard to beat. The real answer to this question is do both, play Jarvan.
Yeah.
Beat up on them with an aggro deck and play the new
Jarvan.
card. It's a 2 for 1.
If you put Stony Suppressor in your deck in Jarvan, you're going to be able to cream all the Burblefish decks trying to grief you, and you're going to beat all the other decks that are just bad and not playing Jarvan. That's the champ select recommendation. That's at least my recommendation. But yeah, I'm going to have fun playing all the new cards, and there's plenty of time to rank later. I'm going to play the new cards personally, and I'm a pretty
and we
big
will be
spike.
playing streaming for quite a while tomorrow, playing the new cards.
Yesterday. All right. Next up, Dragon asks, with all of these new cards coming in and the Aphelios nerf, which of the current meta decks will stay relevant, and which do you think will fall off?
Well, I will say that I think Fizz TF will stay relevant because I haven't seen much that will hurt it other than really,
I agree.
Like unless Ice Shard is like the new hotness, like
Or the 7 mana, like gain a bunch of life on your attack turn by giving all your dudes neg-2 and then wiping your board.
Oh, that too.
The Nasus, I think it's Nasus's champ spell. I know that the art is not one of Nasus's abilities from League.
Yeah.
Don't remember if it's actually his champ spell. I think it might actually probably.
It's not. It's
Nasus's
Siphoning
champ spell.
Strike is his champ spell. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think. All right. So in my head, I expect. So the Aphelios nerf. First off, I don't think we even talked about it.
We
at
haven't
all.
talked about that yet.
But
Aphelios is becoming a 3/2.
a 3/2. That changes quite a bit about Aphelios.
A little surprised about that, by the way.
I am as well, but I think that makes him pretty
not that-
reasonably.
Not surprised on power
worse.
level. I'm surprised they nerfed a card the day before the expansion, and also that it was Aphelios and not Twisted Fate. But I
think
do think Aphelios is making more waves, so probably good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
He's too much of a value engine and can go in anything.
He's really, really good.
I think that Aphelios TF is probably not going to see as much play anymore. To be honest, I think that with the rise of Aphelios Kench, as well as the Aphelios nerf, and just the decks getting more aggressive, probably with all the. I mean, this. Correct me if you guys think I'm wrong here, but I think that this patch is very aggressive. This set is very aggressive. I expect things to get lower, which
Sivir,
means
LeBlanc, Renekton, Jarvan,
which means I expect
Sand soldiers.
Yeah,
even
that-
Kindred.
which means I expect that decks that didn't have a great aggro plan are gonna feel it the most, probably.
Absolutely.
So, Feel the Rush had a reasonable aggro plan, but it might not be good enough anymore. So that one could be bad. Like Anivia might rise with all the extra 1 power stuff floating around, or it might fall, or 1 toughness stuff
Or might
rising
get
around,
run
or
over
might get
even harder.
completely run over even harder. There's a lot of decks that I think are in that nebula of like, well, this deck has a plan against some of the aggro decks and folds to some of them. So I really just think it depends on how the decks are constructed. This is a hard question.
I think Fiora Shen might actually just be in a really great place.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to collect on some aggro decks, Fiora Shen
And
seems like a good way to do
we're
it.
definitely on for the foreseeable future if aggro is as good as we think it is. 3x Spirit Refuge.
Oh yeah,
Like
probably.
that's got to be the thing for that deck.
I've been pretty happy with 3 Spirit Refuge and heavy aggro versions, or heavy aggro metas.
Go
with Fiora Shen
2-1
in the
because I like
past.
Riposte, but
I've been playing I even played 3-1 once. Right, I just wanted more of that effect, and I just wanted to gain the life. All right, Dustin asks, what champ would you most like to rework, and how would you do it? Could be the champ or the cards around it.
Anyone?
Anyone got any ideas right off the bat?
Yeah, so,
LeBlanc. Can we make her 6 mana and unplayable and so cool, please? It'd be so sweet.
That's
I would be a
totally
little mad about that because 6 mana doesn't scream like assassin
Yeah,
manipulator to me. But
1 mana and completely unplayable.
You know who else is
and sweet.
amazing?
I don't know.
6 mana? Lux.
Karma.
Karma would be Karma. I would love to rework. I would love to revert Heimerdinger so that you could make elusives again. That would be cool.
Yeah, it doesn't seem nearly as bad when they can just block purple fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anything else stand out to you guys? Any champs that you want to rework?
I think the most like I think Yasuo is the most in need of a rework. I just nothing about Yasuo is either good or cool, interesting. Like
You don't like the animation where you're just like,
Well, I
all your
love the
units?
animation.
the animation's dope. His level of animation's kind of cool, and like he's just so bad. And he doesn't
so bad.
He doesn't do anything even when he does all of his things.
What if we made him like a 3 mana 3/3?
And I'm sorry, did you change his effect at all? Like no, but
like that might actually do it.
I guess
unironically.
like Draven's good because he's a 3 mana 3/3
Yeah.
quick attack, but like
That could help a lot. Yeah, I'm with you. I would love to see a Yasuo rework.
I just want Yasuo to feel like Yasuo. No, I shouldn't say that. I've never played Yasuo in League.
You do not. I think the last thing anyone wants is Yasuo to feel like Yasuo in this game.
Because I've had Yasuo, like, everyone's had Yasuo played against them way too often.
Really? They expertly captured. Yeah, they excellently captured what it is like to play against Yasuo in League of Legends matched it with playing Yasuo in Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah. I think that
kind of hopeless.
I think that Yasuo, actually, in a similar vein, I was going to say the problem here with Legends of Runeterra Yasuo is that you can never hit the 0-10 power spike.
It's true. You can't. You can only die 3 times.
Exactly. Yasuo can't die. That's poorly translated into Legends of Runeterra. So if there's any way that we could get the 10 death power spike onto Yasuo from Legends of Runeterra,
Anivia has a 10 death power spike.
yeah, maybe we should just give him the egg Nivea.
There you go. He, to be fair, he could, that could just be his new level up condition. I've seen myself die 10 times.
and then you
level up, win the game.
And then it's like an animation of Boris, the shopkeeper, handing you an infinity edge.
Yeah. There we go.
And it's like anytime I strike a unit with less than 8 toughness, I kill it.
Wombo combo plays in the background.
It just starts playing really cool music. Yeah.
I'm mostly happy with most champions, especially Fizz would have been a candidate a while ago and just found a place now. And
the real answer for me is that I guess the only one that really jumps out is maybe I would like to see Vladimir changed. It's been a long time and he hasn't done anything. He's been bad since the start of the game.
Even with Stargrounds.
Yeah, he's routinely been the answer of who's the worst champion in the game basically since the game launched. So I think if anyone should go, it's that one.
Cool.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how I would change him because I actually think his flavor is pretty good. So
Same.
All right. Last up, though this one's got a couple of points. So first, Tremor192 asks, what are you testing tomorrow? What's the first deck you're playing?
Lissandra. I don't care what else is in it.
Cool. Probably Kindred, but maybe Jarvan.
Same. Yeah. Probably Kindred or probably Jarvan, maybe Kindred is basically where I'm at. Next, what would you say to those who cannot play tomorrow? I would watch streams.
Like our streams.
Yeah. We're going to start streaming.
Yesterday.
So maybe keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Which should be on for 6 to 8 hours.
But yeah, just streams in general. I don't know. I just love day one of set drop stuff. Love emerging every single social media, like Reddit, Discord, your group chats with all your friends are just exploding. Everybody's trying new stuff, saying everything's broken, and 9/10 of them are wrong.
Craft Him Now was one of my favorites from when Cosmic Creations dropped.
I remember reading that message, as well. I didn't buy it. I didn't.
To be fair,
that guy edits our articles now.
His caveat was in Expedition.
Oh.
It also was not true.
He's a little bit better.
He's better in Expedition.
Nuts
for sure.
in Expedition. I don't think.
Oh, I play so much Expedition when sets drop, by the way.
Oh,
Expedition's
I
amazing.
might really do that.
Yeah, we might have to play some of that.
I have all of the champions now.
Finally.
Yeah, I got a champ wildcard and it was I got a champion and it was shards and I was like, I got cheated.
I punted so hard yesterday. I unlocked a Demacia champion capsule and I accidentally misclicked opened it yesterday, 2 days before the set launches, and then I got Lux or something just awful.
Oh,
yeah, I got a Lux and I was like, oh, this could have been a Jarvan. I punted so hard. That was a huge mistake.
I've been sitting on my unopened Targon reward track since the launch of 2 sets ago. I still have.
You've just had all of the cards.
I just had all the cards for so long, and every time a new set comes, I just open all this stuff on my reward track, all my champ capsules, and I get all the champions.
That's sick. Hugh's game in the system.
Yeah, Hugh's got it. All right. What do you think is the card with the most potential? Jarvan.
Kindred.
Lissandra.
Sick, actually. Really?
Maybe.
Interesting.
That or Sivir, honestly. I think.
Sivir was going to be my other answer. Yeah.
Sivir is probably my real non-dream answer.
Also,
I've talked a lot about Jarvan.
That card's insane.
That card's really. I really think Sivir is going to be really, really good. She wasn't on my top 3, and I think that I screwed up. Now, the more I talk about it. All right. List of which champions you think will be bad. Do you think that any of the champions released in this set are bad?
Talia, probably.
Nasus Renekton.
I think Renekton is the worst. The worst champion's build.
I think Nasus has to be worse, right?
I think Nasus will find a home because I think that Nasus is just going to get put. So like the current Endure aggro lists, right, are just Shadow Isles, Freljord, and the only Freljord card they're playing is They Who Endure. And I think that deck is going to get better if they just play Shurima and Nasus instead.
But
so
Nasus doesn't have Overwhelm.
Yes, I agree. But I think that They Who Endure killed people with atrocity a lot, and the fact like They Who Endure wasn't even that good in that deck anymore. It just gets hushed a lot.
Didn't it go to 7 mana too? And Nasus is 6.
I don't think it went to 7.
I'm pretty sure it's 6 mana.
Oh, okay. I'm just crazy.
But
it might be 7 mana. I don't remember.
It could be. Regardless, like They Who Endure is not actually really the good part of that deck anymore. I don't think there's just way too many answers to it. So I think that Nasus has the same problem where he's going to get hushed and all that, and that's all still going to be a problem for the card. But I think he's going to be roughly similar sized as They Who Endure would have been. And you're going to get the really good aggressive Shurima cards, which I think is going to be a far bigger upside than They Who Endure having
it costs
trample.
7 mana now.
Cool. So
okay.
yeah, it's even a mana less. Great. Cool. So I think that Renekton is probably the worst one. Cool. All right. Azir Hecarim, anyone?
Yes.
Moving on.
Only
you were really high on Hecarim. Or
what?
Azir.
No, I'm super high on Azir. Hecarim,
All right, fair enough. All right. And lastly, they ask, people around beta were worried that Karma's level 2, Karma level 2, so flipped Karma, was going to break the game at some point. But now that seems very unlikely. What do you guys think changed? Like, what's our take on this?
She got nerfed a lot.
Well, but her level 2 didn't get any nerfed.
Well, I mean,
I just think that the game isn't really about that anymore.
Also, by nerfing her level 1, it nerfs her level 2.
That's fair.
Because the reason she was good is because she will level no matter what. She just has to live, and her nerfs made her never live ever. Right?
Because the 6 cost
she's
3
now
toughness
6 cost
versus 5
and
cost 3 toughness. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a really big change.
It was a huge change. She used to be a 5/4 for 5. Right? No.
She has always had the same stat line. She just got 1 more mana.
That's what it is.
I'm just saying the ratio of cost to health got worse.
Yeah, it makes it much. You have to wait till turn 7 to hold up Karma plus Deny, and a lot of the time you just can't do that on turn 7 because you have to interact.
You sort of got to. It's like, you just got to roll the dice.
And on that same turn, if you play Karma plus Deny, your opponent has like 7 mana at least, right? Like, odds are that they can play 2 spells into your Deny that can kill Karma because she only has 3 toughness.
Or, they can just play creatures that aren't terrible.
Yeah, and then you can't play Karma.
She was already bad against aggro, and then they made her more expensive. Yeah. Like you said, the game isn't like when there are that few champions in the game, other late games were just never that good, but that's just not true anymore. Like the the Harrowing, huge and hard for Karma to beat, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that actually Karma is kind of in a similar place as Tryndamere, honestly, where the game just isn't about that really anymore. And I think it's more true of Tryndamere, but I think that Karma is suffering from the same thing, where it's like Tryndamere nowadays, it's like, it used to be that an 8/4 that turned into a 9/9 was completely unbeatable. And now I, can flip my Twisted Fate on turn 5 and stun it every turn. And I just don't care about your Tryndamere.
Or you can hush away his trample.
Or I can hush it, right? Like
his level up.
Yeah.
That's true too. Yeah.
And Karma is in a similar boat where it's like she's just far too slow. And she just doesn't impact the board the turn she comes down. I mean, when you look at like Karma versus Twisted Fate, I mean, it's really quite a blowout. Like they have to live for a similar, in theory, even if you don't really draw any extra cards, right? Like Twisted Fate would level up at like around 10. And then, Karma's a little bit better, but obviously Twisted Fate levels up on like turn 4 or 5. Like,
it's insane. Yeah. He never levels up on turn 4, but.
Or
I guess he could theoretically.
He's not leveling up on turn 4. You're absolutely right. He's leveling up on turn 5 or 6. My bad. But like, I just don't think that Karma is what the game's about. Create a random spell in hand used to be good because you could, a random spell used to affect most constructed games, and now that it doesn't.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and the range of spells you could get was narrower, so it was a little more predictable. All that said, the game just isn't what it used to be, and it's going to continue to evolving. It's all about these like Right now, it's all about champions like Aphelios and Twisted Fate and Zoe that are just like such efficient value engines that are really hard to get out ahead of and trade profitably into. And then this new expansion is really aggressive. Maybe it'll curb that. Maybe it won't. I'm really excited to find out.
Yeah, I think any last points you wanna make, guys, before we wrap it up for today?
Nothing from me.
No, I got nothing.
Alrighty, well then I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode of Champ Selects. We launched our coaching program recently. We talked about it a little earlier. If you're interested in coaching, check out the description wherever you're listening to. As well, we would love it if you would join our Discord. It's been very active, and trust us, you want to be in the Discord during the first few days of patching because, like I said, it's so much fun. So I highly recommend joining the Discord. Link is also in the description, and follow us on Twitter. You can guess where that is. We will see you all next week, and everyone enjoy some Shurima.
Whoa!